through the news for you. The Awake Nation, the truth with a shot of espresso. The Mockingbird Media controls the narrative. We help you determine what is real and what is not.
Global conspiracy with key players, the highest levels of power, reaches into the lives of every man, woman, and child on this planet.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow government, I will fear no Satans. Tuesday, December 19, 2023, our guests are Christi Tasker. Christi Tasker is an award-winning technologist, international business consultant, designer, manufacturer, artisan. She designs and sells fashion, jewelry, home decor, and fabrics. Christi is also an investigative journalist based in Miami who travels globally to discover truth. She's an investigative journalist for the Awake Nation. You can find her at ChristiTasker.com, PSSRocks.com, PatriotsPerspective.com, and ChristiTasker4Miami.com. Christi's guest today is John A. Richardson Jr., President, Richardson Nutritional Center. John serves as the Chief Visionary Officer of Operation World Without Cancer, a humanitarian global marketing effort to create widespread understandings of all natural, organic, metabolic, God-given solutions to cancer, with the ultimate goal of making cancer as rare as scurvy by the year 2030. Our next guest is Dr. Reg McDaniel. Dr. Reg McDaniel, New Eden Supplement. Currently, Dr. McDaniel is Director of Research at Wellness Quest, LLC. He has published numerous educational papers on the effects of glyconutritionals in relation to various conditions.
My name is Dr. Tapper. I am in private practice in Omaha, Nebraska. I don't wear a mask. I see over 200 patients a week. I come in close proximity with every patient that I come across. Why haven't I contracted this so-called disease?
Our next guest is Dr. Ben Tapper. Dr. Ben Tapper is a chiropractor and the owner of the Wellness Point. Ben serves the Omaha, Nebraska community, including the vaccine-injured. Dr. Tapper has received national attention for his views on vaccines, health, and public mandates. He advocates the body's natural ability to heal itself. His documentary is entitled The Time Is Now. Dr. Tapper can be found at thewellnesspoint.com. Rounding out the final hour of the Awake Nation is Jinny Silcox. Formerly employed with the Department of Energy, Jinny was a designer and trainer. Jinny held Q clearance. She is a musicologist and international speaker on frequency, direct energy weapons, electromagnetics, and the dangers of 5G and the future of AI. Don't forget to subscribe to The Dark Outpost at darkoutpost.tv. There you will find exclusive content, interviews, documentaries, and intel not found anywhere else. For the full show, go to awakenation.tv. Falling down the rabbit hole can hurt. Ouch. Ow, that's gonna hurt. We will provide the researchers and whistleblowers. Your mission is to discern the truth from the MSN lies. And now for the interview portion of the Awake Nation. And awake we go with a shot of espresso. It's showtime.
All right, welcome back to the Awake Nation. Truth with a shot of espresso. Penny L.A. Shepard, David Zublick with you. And joining us now is Christi Tasker. Her website, ChristiTasker.com, PatriotsPerspective.com. And Christi, I know you have a special guest with you, so we'll also bring in John Richardson at the same time. And you can kind of introduce him and tell us about him and what's happening.
Well, first of all, John Richardson is the guy that I've been telling you guys about here on the Awake Nation. That's the reason I've not answered all of your questions regarding the Big C. We're going to try to keep this on Facebook and YouTube today because I want to make sure that everybody gets out this message, because John is going to help us rid the Big C by 2030 while the globalists are planning against us. And the best part is John is known as the apricot seed guy, and he carries the legacy of his father, Dr. John A. Richardson, MD, and G. Edward Griffin, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. I think we've all heard about that on this show. So, John, welcome to the Awake Nation with David and Penny. And David and Penny, thank you guys so much for
and Christi
doing the show and hosting us and everything that you guys do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, my voice is a little, I just spent the day yesterday at the AmFest here in Phoenix, Arizona with you know, all those big famous right side speakers, you know, so it was hard to talk because it's hard to compete with those great speakers at the event, but it was Charlie Kirk and the whole gang. So it was a great time. I appreciate being here every day that I can tell the message that this has been known for over 100 years. Every day I can tell one new person is great. So getting it to say this to your audience is fantastic. Like Christi said, my father was good friends. Well, maybe she didn't mention this. My dad was very good friends with G. Edward Griffin, who wrote the book originally, World Without Cancer, describing how we knew the answer to cancer. We've known it for 50 years at this time. This book was written in 1974, and it's been updated several times with new information, but it's going to be 50 years old next year. And so, you know, this, everybody watching on screen know that they've hidden things like this from us, but we have the answer to cancer, have had it for 100 years. And at least for 50 years, we've actually had studies and doctors doing it and treating people, but they've still covered it up. And the time has never been better now that we've gone through this COVID scam and people are awake to the medical establishment. That the time has never been better to get this message out there. So that's what I'm doing. And I'd love to answer any questions or, you know, just go on about it. But one of the things is that the second half of this book is the whole thing why the medical, the big pharma establishment doesn't want it to happen. And they have literally billions of dollars to fight against natural answers to the C word. So I will be careful so we can get this out on YouTube. Yeah. Most people know this. You can block that out. And even this word, maybe you might want to block it, but I know we're live. So, but the truth is the truth. And anybody watching your show, they're used to receiving truth. And that's why Tucker Carlson gave a great speech last night at the AmFest talking about the more truth we tell, the more power we have inside. And the only way to battle evil is by telling the truth in every facet. So every facet of our life, tell the truth. And that's what I'm here to do. And when people hear it, they'll understand I'm not out here for anything else but to get the truth out there and to continue my dad's legacy and G. Edward Griffin's legacy. He's 92 years old this year, and he still takes amygdalin, or the B word, B17, which may be also not good on YouTube. I'm sorry, or Facebook.
God, speak freely, and what we're going to do is we'll just pull it down, we'll block it out, and I'll make a little clip and make people go elsewhere, go to Rumble to watch this episode, so we don't have to be concerned with it, because it is such a truth power that we're not going to be able to avoid it, because it is. I actually met you and part of your team at Reawaken Tour here in Miami, and it was during a time where I was losing my friend Barbara Knight. A lot of people may know her as Barbie, to cancer. Well, not to cancer. She had gotten all cured from cancer, or so she thought, with their, you know, witchcraftery, because that's what we have to realize. It is witchcraft that they're utilizing. And that witchcraft is often called chemotherapy. And that chemotherapy only has about a 2% cure rate. A lot of people don't realize that it's not the chemotherapy. As a matter of fact, chemotherapy can actually hurt your chances of being able to use something natural. So I went through this whole, you know, when she realized like maybe she should use something natural, she shouldn't listen to the 12 doctors that she had, even though she had the best team of doctors. You know what? If she had the best team of doctors that really knew what they were doing, she would be alive. And actually, she told me to tell everybody that. She told me, you know, don't waste any words. Because I said, well, how should I present this? Because she has passed away now. How should I present this? And she said, tell the truth just as it is of what we know, that if she had had it to do over, she would have tried the apricot seed regimen. She would not have believed from her doctors that it was an arsenic for your body, because we now know that many people are cured off of this, but they have heard, our medical community has heard bad news regarding apricot seeds. I mean, come on, God gave us apricot seeds. We have to use common sense at some point. So,
well, yeah, I regularly eat 40 apricot seeds a day. And at the trade show, I was just at the Clay Clark in Tulare, California. I spoke there, and I ate over 100 seeds during the day. The cyanide lie, we might as well get to that right up front for anybody watching, because that's the first thing you're going to get when you Google. If you eat 3 apricot seeds, you'll probably die of cyanide poisoning. It's not true. It's not possible. Scientifically, chemically, it's not possible. I don't know how much time we have on the show to talk about the science of it.
You got 20 minutes, but I want to hear everything you have to say about this. It's extremely important, John. So use the time wisely, because our listeners are wrapped with attention.
They've been waiting for you, John. They've I had told them that there was an absolute cure. There are a lot of people listening that had emailed me asking what the exact situation is. So what I want to make sure that you get through is, tell a little bit about the cyanide, what they're going to hear online. And then also let's give them the solution for what they should do if they have cancer and preventative.
Okay, well, first of all, I hate the word cure, because I really want to get away from that. There really is not a cure to disease. All disease is a deficiency of vitamins. I would say all disease is God has given us the plant or the substance to prevent that disease. It's not a pharmaceutical. I don't take any pharmaceutical. Most of the healthy people I know are not on pharmaceutical drugs at all. Once you get started on that treadmill, you can't get off. So the good news is you can get off it with natural substances and natural things, eating naturally, eating your food less cooked. But here's the mechanics of how an apricot seed works. It's got a molecule of cyanide, a molecule of benzaldehyde, and 2 of glucose. Now, in the 70s, when doctors were talking about how this worked, they'd known it for 50 years. But in the 70s, lots of doctors were out there telling the story of amygdalin, saying we can wipe out cancer in our lifetime. The FDA came up and said, we can't get this to break apart in the lab. So these quack doctors must be lying, because we can't get it to break apart in the lab like they say it does in the body to kill the C word, to kill the tumor. Well, the only enzyme that breaks apart amygdalin is called beta-glucosidase, and beta-glucosidase breaks it down into the benzaldehyde, which is highly toxic to a cancer cell, cyanide, which is also highly toxic to a cancer cell, and 2 molecules of glucose, which everybody knows cancer loves to grow. Cancer feeds on sugar, on glucose. So when it comes in contact with beta-glucosidase, it breaks apart. So if beta-glucosidase was spread throughout your body, you could say, wow, that might be dangerous. If I'm eating a bunch of amygdalin, I might have cyanide and benzaldehyde going all around. Well, here's the truth, that beta-glucosidase is only found at levels 100, 1,000 times greater at a cancer cell, at a tumor. That's where it's found the highest concentration. In normal cells, normal healthy cells, you don't have beta-glucosidase. What you do have is you have rhodinase. These are both studied enzymes. Rhodinase is the protecting enzyme, and it actually breaks down cyanide and benzaldehyde in a healthy cell and gives you analgesic. So you actually get pain relief from amygdalin, or Laetrile, as it was called in its purified form. Right. You actually get pain relief. So not only does it work great against a cell that's replicating improperly, but it also works to help healthy cells use vitamin C, vitamin D, and other vitamins and nutrients much better. So a person that takes 3 apricot seeds and feels sick to their stomach, if they Google it, they're going to go, oh my God, I just cyanide poisoned myself. Oh, if I eat apple seeds, they have cyanide in them, I'm going to poison myself. Lies. These are lies. And I'm a perfect example of it. And I'm telling everybody on this panel, and I say it every time I speak, if I was killing 1 out of 100 people or 1 out of 1,000 people that were eating apricot seeds, I'd long since been in jail and been out of business a long time ago. If I was selling pharmaceuticals and killing people, I could get away with it. But any natural substance, if I was out there killing people, it wouldn't keep going. We sell hundreds and thousands of pounds of apricot seeds, and the message is getting out there, and the stories are unbelievable. The emails I get. My dad has books in my presentation for Operation World Without Cancer, because we're gathering all the different health treatments together, not just apricot seeds or Laetrile, but also high doses of vitamin C or ozone therapies or fenbendazole, all of these things that have shown to have good effects on the C word. We're gathering this army of people together to tell the world about it. And so they can't pick us all off. I'm getting doctors and MDs and Simone Gold with Gold Healthcare. Their organization is learning about it. Dr. Eric Naputi is on board. Some of these names that are people that have signed on and said, John, I'm with you. Let's do this. And they wouldn't be doing this if the Google of 3 apricot seeds kills you was true. It's the cover up they've done for 50 years. And they've demonized it so bad that even I spend most of my time educating people, even though I'll normally on a podcast, I'll eat 10 apricot seeds, but it takes a while for me to chew them up and eat them properly. So I can't talk for a little bit. So, but I, like I said, have been doing this 30 years, and the mechanism is exactly like I described. So how do people know?
Can I interrupt you? Just to ask a quick question. I did a little search on apricot seeds, and they sell them. You can get them at Amazon. You can get them. So if it's poison and it has cyanide in it, why do they sell it as a food?
Well, I'm afraid to give a lot of credibility to Amazon for selling it, because it's about money.
Well, there's other.
I'm just saying. I get it, but other countries like Australia has outlawed apricot seeds. Why? No, there's never been a case of anybody getting harmed from it. Canada has outlawed apricot seeds. So it's America still semi-free. We're only 80% communist in America. Yeah. So we can still do it, but the message that I want to get out to people is it's not necessarily just about apricot seeds. That the reason why we sell at my RNC store and have been doing it for 30 years.
Okay, so you sell them yourself.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because I'm not a doctor. I don't have patients. I don't treat anybody. So I'm kind of, I'm a businessman. My dad was the MD who lost his license, was put in jail, arrested with guns ablaze. Why? Because he was curing and helping people. He wrote a book called Laetrile Case Histories, which has been out of print for a year and a half. And on the famous Amazon, it sells for about $150 right now. The G. Edward Griffin, my good friend, has all the everything to get this published, and he's just so busy at 92. He's constantly running. We haven't been able to get the book published, but there's one story in here that I like to point out to people. This is a young man who went to a normal hospital. What I shouldn't use the word normal either. Let's call it a orthodox hospital, and found that he had cancer in his bone in his arm, and then he had his spleen, his spine, everything. He was sent home to die. His name is Shane Horton, and this young man was 6 years old when he came to my dad and was given 6 weeks to live. This is him 3 years later. When they were writing this book, they brought him back and re-x-rayed him, took him back to the same oncology department to prove that he didn't have cancer, because my dad said that people would say all the time, oh, it's just spontaneous, health, it's the leftover of when they had chemotherapy is the only reason you're helping people. So every single case in this book was documented to have cancer before, go through my dad's therapy, and then not have it after. And there's 62 cases in here. But Pat Griffin, who's still alive as well, who wrote this book with my dad, who's Ed Griffin's wife, tells me all the time there was thousands of miraculous cases, but many of the patients would just go home and say, I'm done with Orthodox hospitals. And there's some of these people bump into me now, and I get letters from people, family members, that were all helped. But they took my dad out, as they did with other doctors that were doing this in the 70s. Many doctors were doing it, and then they took it out, demonized it, did a study at Sloan Kettering, and they covered it all up, lied about it. And that's a whole nother story that we could talk about. They did a study in the 70s proving it worked, but they paid a doctor $1 million to lie. And Ed Griffin says it's the genocide of our times. We have the answer, and it's just been covered up.
Yeah. And we're going to listen, I'm going to have you back on for many episodes, John. So I want you to tell, we're going to get all those stories out. Listen, we're going to do an entire series. I'll get with your team and just get them booked for your availability, because I am committed to get those stories out. I promised Barbie that I would get them out. I'm going to. So, and early in 2024. But today, what I want to make sure that our audience knows, because there are people that have emailed me, and, you know, they are on the verge of like listening to their doctors or, you know, trying something on their own. And I know with Barbie that she was, you know, many, I'll call it homeopathic doctors, let's just say, or natural healing doctors have told her that, you know, she had gone way too far with the chemo. I mean, years of chemo. Okay. Yeah. And she researched 2% of people are barely cured from chemo. So why, I mean, you know, if you want to go for the 98%, you know,
it's more like 2% have survived. It's more like 2%.
That's what I'm saying. 2% have survived. That's truth. It should actually be outlawed. When she saw the statistics, and even her brother got the statistics, they couldn't believe what it was. So I want to make sure that if you were that person, or if okay, let me ask you, John, what should I do in a case where I have been told right now that I have cancer? What should I get from your store? What should I read? What do you think those people should do?
Well, number one thing is you have to educate yourself, because it's the automatic assumption that here I am, a businessman with no medical degree. I don't have a science degree. How can I possibly know more than a doctor who's been through 10 years of education? Here's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Your doctor has less education about nutrition than almost anybody out there. And any honest doctor will answer that. My dad told people all the time, he had 10 years of education and had a week of nutrition class back when he was in medical school. And that was in the early 40s. And it hasn't changed this day. The whole medical establishment is funded by big pharma and by the pharmaceutical industry. So all they possibly know, even a very well-meaning doctor, all they know is pharmaceutical answers to disease. And there's nobody that dies of a lack of pharmaceutical drugs. It just doesn't, there's no deficiency of pharmaceutical drugs. Like I said, about 100% of our disease has an answer in nature. We just haven't maybe discovered what that answer is yet for certain things, but we know what it is for scurvy. It's vitamin C. If you didn't take vitamin C regularly, you would die of scurvy. Rickets is vitamin D. If you didn't have vitamin D in your diet, and a diet deficient on vitamin D, you'll get rickets and die. Scurvy was a painful, debilitating death. No one could possibly imagine that a simple vitamin like vitamin C could prevent it. Cancer is a deficiency disease. Nothing you can do with radiation, chemotherapy, and surgery is going to replace that
without destroying your immune system.
Not destroying your immune system. Now, again, I need to make sure that people understand this. The word cure, this is not some outside thing that affects the cancer. It's your body. It's giving your body the nutrients it needs to fight it off. If your body has those nutrients, you can smoke cigarettes. You can do things. I'm not recommending that. If the body has those nutrients that prevent that disease, like vitamin C, you could smoke cigarettes and not get scurvy. The same thing goes along with cancer. It's so hard for people to believe what I'm saying because it's so simple, but the answer's been around for 50 years. And they've done such a good job demonizing it. So what do I tell people to do? First, you have to educate yourself, because you have to put on your armor of truth. Because as soon as if you just hear, oh, apricot seeds do it, you go to your doctor, they're going to say, nope, that's cyanide poisoning. That's been proven to be wrong. That is a lie. I have hundreds of studies, Sloan Kettering being one of them, hundreds of studies and hundreds and thousands of case histories. Letters are coming to me now, and I have books of letters from my dad's patients that we're transcribing so you can read them. They were handwritten, and he used them in his trials. He was taken to court 4 times, and he used them as trials. And I have those available on my website for anybody to look at, and we're transcribing them. Because for years, I was even self-censoring. I was afraid to put this information out there because I knew what they did to my dad, and I saw what they did to other doctors that were telling the truth. But there's The time is now to get the truth out there. There's never been a better time. The Republic has never been more receptive to the fact that we've been lied to about almost everything. And this is just another one of the things. They don't want us to live a long, happy, healthy life. They want us to die in our 50s. All of us should live to be over 100. That's God made our bodies to be able to live over 100 if we have the proper nutrition. And this is just one of those things, along with vitamin C. So the last thing I'll say without having another question is I can't recommend go do this without them having the knowledge up here of what they're doing. Because if they don't understand it and believe it and have that armor of truth, they're going to be easily convinced by their family members or the doctor who's got this, long list of degrees that he's got from pharmaceutical industry. And they're going to say, how does this John Richardson guy or any of these other people that have been called quacks know anything better than my doctors? The truth is here. It's here. And there's so much documentation now and so many case histories from the past, present, and now in the future. I'm getting now emails regularly from MDs that are using it to help people's immune system and not calling it a treatment for the C word. Don't call it a treatment. That's where you get in trouble, MDs. Call it a natural healing thing that helps your immune system, just like vitamin C, just like vitamin D, just like all the other vitamins we need to be healthy.
Yeah. And then you've got books on your website that they can also read, correct? Yep.
Yeah, so we have this book. It's not in stock. We're trying to get it back. This book sells more copies in a week now than it used to sell in a year, just 7 years ago. It's going to be 50 years old next year. Now it has been updated with more recent information. He just updated again in 2011, and he may be updating again now. But Ed is 92, brilliant, still goes out and speaks, still has Red Pill Expos, and he still regularly eats Laetrile. And he'll tell anybody that asks, he doesn't know anybody that regularly eats Laetrile that's ever died of the C word. That is a testimony that and I can say that in my own life. I know I'm never going to die of the C word. I eat 40 apricot seeds a day. Again, don't do it at home. Start out with 2 or 3 so you don't get an upset stomach, but you're not poisoning yourself. You're simply getting your body used to digesting the seed and the mechanism that I described. You need to make sure your body has enough rhodonase so that when you're fighting it or doing breaking the C cells down, that you're not getting yourself upset stomach. But don't believe the cyanide poisoning, because it's not true. It's not true.
Well, and you also have a really good bar that I tried at Reawaken. It tasted like peanut. Honestly, it tasted like the best bar. You didn't even know that it even had apricot seeds in it, which I love.
It's a totally natural food. Unfortunately, it's been so popular we haven't been able to keep up demand because we haven't gone to some large manufacturing place because we're very specific what we're doing, but we're working hard to do that. Our idea is to show people that you can have it as part of your diet, have something tasty. And I didn't get to talk about the 1,200 different foods. I don't have them all memorized, but you don't even need to get stuff from me. That's even if they outlaw apricot seeds, we can still wipe out the C word in my lifetime by everybody eating more foods full of nitrosides, lima beans, millet, barley, the little seeds on the side of strawberries, apple seeds, sorghum molasses, all have amygdalin or Laetrile in them. And the Hunzas, who eat up to 200 apricot seeds a day, they were found at the beginning of the century to be cancer-free and living 120 to 130 years old. They're not the only society that eats a lot of Laetrile in their diet. There's other societies that all have very low incidence of cancer. So the proof is out there. The proof is now. I have the backup data and doctors that are out there that want to talk to me and understand it. I even have a doctor's guide that I had one of my customers send to me, and I reprinted it and put it on the website at $10 just so I could get it out there. I want doctors to know how the mechanism works instead of believing the lie. That's what I want them to know.
And John, your team has given us a discount code of PS This Rocks. So if people put in PS This Rocks, you'll get a very nice discount code from John's store. But I would start with those books, like he said, and start with like a bag of either the mill. I actually prefer the mill because I think you can cook with it as well. You can actually possibly like make your own peanut bars. I'm going to actually be experimenting with a couple of recipes, just trying to, put it into something I can grab and chew on, so that you can get used to it. But I will tell you, I mean, I had an entire bar. I mean, like at the conference, I didn't get sick at all. I didn't notice that. Like,
you want
it was recommended that you take like a quarter. Of course, I take the entire bar because, like, I'm like, oh, but this is good. I can't even taste it. I didn't even notice. So that you know, no upset tummy, no nothing.
Yeah,
so.
Like I said, I eat 40 a day. I'm used to it, but start out slow and build your way up. And I'd love to come back and have more.
Well, we still have some time because our next guest is running a little bit late. So
okay, great.
I want to use this time effectively because this is very important. Now, I noticed, with your permission, I'm going to put your website up on our screen.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that people can see it. Let's do this right now.
Thank you, David.
There it is, RNC. All right, you got the bitter raw apricot seeds, Laetrile, Richardson Nutritional Center. I would like, and I don't know how we can work this out, John, but I would like also to be able to make your products available through our website.
Absolutely.
Nation.com. As an affiliate, so I'm gonna sign up for that today because I can, even when you're not here, I can constantly promote your website and what you're offering here, and I would like to do that. I will be here when you're not here even.
Yeah, and I want people to understand, anybody out there listening, this is about spreading the news, the good news, and this is how I fund what I do. I'm doing also Operation World Without Cancer. That's going to be a nonprofit organization. And I want to bring in, I just had a good friend that stayed over the house last night from Chicago that has a silver product that's amazing. But it's not just about like my product. It's about the natural answer to the C word is out there. It's, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a $500,000 course of poisonous drugs coursing through your veins that makes you lose your hair and ruins your life. My dad said that he had upwards of 95% of the patients that came to him, even on their last leg. They only came to my dad when they were ready to die. He still was able to save many of them, but almost 100% of them had pain relief, a sense of well-being. They stopped having the putrid smell that people have when they have cancer. They started having a diet. They started being active. Even if they ended up dying of this debilitating thing that they'd let their bodies destroyed with all the chemotherapy and radiation, they still improved their life by going with what my dad recommended. So unfortunately, some of the things we've mentioned are sold out on the website. The unfortunate part about telling the story is that people come to buy what you're telling them about. And that's that. Most people go, well, that's a great thing. Well, these are not something I can manufacture. I can't just go out and press a button and manufacture apricot seeds. I have to plan years in advance to make sure I have the crops, to make sure I can put them in the bag, to make sure I get them to people. So, but it's not something I hoard. It's not something I protect as like trademarks and patents. I want the world to know about this. So I sell to all of those people that sell on Amazon, David. I also sell to them wholesale. I sell them bulk so they can package those seeds. So it's not something I hide. I hide from people. I want people to know about this, but absolutely, the more we can tell everybody and the more you can.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to get it set up so we have your products available to go. They can just go to our website, awakenation.tv, or our news website, theawakenation.com, and get to your site from there and order it, because this is fantastic. Yeah. This is important information, John, and I'm so glad. I want you to come on several times. I want, as Christi said, please become a regular contributor to this program, because we've got nobody else on here talking about cancer, and you would be the go-to guy.
I would love to. It gives me, whenever I have God looking over my shoulder, I get these chills in the back of my neck. This is the time. This turbo cancer is happening to people. Cancer, it does not have to kill anybody. I promise you. They might be able to take me out and not tell this message, but I'm building an army of people that are learning this, and you're part of the army now. So we're going to tell the world about this, and we're going to wipe it out. We're going to wipe it out in my lifetime.
Excellent.
Yeah. And listen, I was going to say, David, some of the best things are there were actually a couple of stories. Like there was, John, there was somebody that was actually working in your booth that came to work with you after they were cured of breast cancer. I mean, well, or they took the apricot seeds and healed themselves with the God-given with God-given apricot seeds. They healed themselves when they were told their breast cancer was so far gone, evidently. And she was there, and she's like, that's the reason, you know, I'm here. Like,
well, there's so many stories like that. And I'm going to tell you, for 30 years, I've been doing this. And for the first 23 years, I was afraid to tell the story of my dad. So I just sold it as a, you know, something to do. And if people found out on their own about apricot seeds, or they read World Without Cancer, or they read my dad's book, they might find me some search, but I wasn't out there telling it. And then BuzzFeed came to me in 2017 and said, hey, we'd like to do an article about you and your dad and tell everybody the wonderful things, and we'll do a balanced story. Well, anybody that knows BuzzFeed knows I was naive to do that story, but because they came out, and if you search it right now on the World Wide Web, you'll find it. It came out with skull and crossbones made out of apricot seeds in 2017. And they talked about my dad losing his license and being called a quack, and how I was, you know, selling a snake oil. I was a snake oil salesman. Here, that was the disappointing thing when I first saw it. That's a longer story, but I found out that 50,000 people clicked through to my website based on that article, because even in 2017, people were waking up. Now they're waking up in droves. We have people on TikTok talking about it. We have people on different places talking about it. They still try to censor us, but the more people are talking about it, the more they get it out there, and the more they censor it, the more they try to stop doctors from doing it. The more people know it's the truth. Some people see it instantly when Google says, oh, it's bad, that they know it's good now. Or CNN comes out and says something's bad, they know it's good.
Yeah, pull it up, David. I actually found it on BuzzFeed. Yep. This is actually quite comical. Actually.
It is comical. And here's the funniest part about this article. If you look through it and click on the different articles, you read them, a guy, they say, poisoned himself, actually went home and continued on the treatment and cured his cancer. It actually has clicks that say, oh, this guy poisoned himself. He's rushed to the hospital to be cleared of cancer. And so that's the company right there that my brother and I started together, called Apricot Power, which is still around today. And that's the company I was working for at that time, working with. And now I because we didn't tell the story ever about the C word, I moved out and started Richardson Nutritional Center for my brother. Not that I still have a great relationship with my brother, but that was one of the things that got us to separate. So I started our Richardson Nutritional Center back in 2018, actually, soon after this, because my brother wanted to stay underground and I wanted to tell everybody the story. So
that's interesting.
There you go. There you go.
This is going to help a lot of people here. And I know that there are people in this audience who watch this program. Everyone either has cancer, has been touched by it in some way, or knows somebody who does. And this is important information. In many cases, these people have been given a death sentence, and you are saving their lives.
Look at that quote. Thank you. In the mid-'70s, Laetrilists were just as controversial as the anti-vaccine movement is today. Think about that in 2017. Now think about people that are anti-vaccine right now. This is the same thing. It's the same medical industrial complex, and the truth is getting out there, and they don't know how to stop it. Here's a funny thing you can do, David and Penny and Christy. You can go to YouTube and Google apricot seeds and B17 and see the the videos are anti, saying it's quackery, and then read the comments. Some of them have 2,000 or 3,000 comments, and every one of them is talking about how they cured their cancer and how their grandmother cured their cancer and this person cured their cancer. They can't stop it unless they delete all the comments. People that watch it read the comments and see all the truth. And because people are telling the truth out there, and it's amazing. The more they try to censor it, the more people know it's true.
What did you say to search on YouTube, John?
You go on YouTube and search cancer fraud cure B17 or anything negative about it. You can put anything you want negative about a truth bomb on YouTube, and they'll keep it up. The doctors, there's one video call from the doctors called, yeah, right there. That's probably, let's see, does Laetrile or vitamin B7? Right there. See the apricot seeds cure for cancer, the doctor's one? Click on that one.
Mm-hmm. It
was done 7 years ago, I think. Okay. Now, you're going to laugh out of watching this. Pause it, or you can play it for your audience, whatever. Your audience can watch it. Here's the funny part. If you just watch the whole thing, you think, wow, that must be a horrible thing. It's been proven to be wrong. Everything in it is a lie, provable, factual. But the anecdotal part of the story is if you go scroll up and read all of the comments, you can just pick 5 out randomly yourself. And there's 887 comments on this video, and it's all about people that are saying they're lying to you. And I've had my parents had it or whatever. And these are not, I didn't go out there and make these comments so that I could put on this. This is a negative video. Like, who tells people the negative about their product? I tell people the negative that you're going to find all the time, because if you don't have the armor of truth on, you'll easily be swayed to go. I've had people say, I did every natural thing except apricot seeds because I believed I was going to poison myself, and they still didn't improve. So it's the most. Well,
this lady says that she actually went to one of the ladies. It's one of the comments. Let's read this. My mom had 4 various cancer issues: breast, lung, throat, and I forgot what with the other. She first got breast cancer in her late 60s. A priest went to Mexico and brought back Laetrile, and her breast cancer went into permanent remission. Same procure for the other 3 cancers. All 4 were, she says, cured. Mom died at 97 years old, not cancer. My brothers and sisters believe the medical industry does not accept it because that would negatively impact their bank accounts. I know plenty of naysayers, but just follow the money chain. So
you can go on and on, guys, and your audience can go on and see these stories. And I get them. I have 6,000 emails, and I'm ashamed to admit 1,400 of them I haven't opened because I'm running out of time in the day. For me, I got up early for this, but I went to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning because I had 2 friends over. We're talking about Operation War Without Cancer. You can't really sleep when you're trying to change the world, but it's okay. I'm not complaining. This is not a complaint. It's exciting times, but the stories are now getting out there, and it's not just I can shut any doctor down that's going to tell me I'm doing something wrong. I can shut anybody down with the information I have. I have too much information. And the faster I get it out to as many people as possible, the safer I am.
Well, it says chemo. One of the comments says chemo is definitely a suicide treatment.
Absolutely. And that can get a doctor to lose his license if he goes on TV and says that. Chemotherapy 50 years ago, the best treatments you could get were chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. Today, the cutting edge thing you can get for cancer is chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. Chemotherapy is poisonous drugs. Radiation, everybody knows radiation causes cancer. Why are they trying to cure it with burning the tumor? And surgery is as diabolical as Theodoric of York. Anybody that's old enough to remember that Saturday Night Live skit, my dad used to mention that all the time, where they did bloodletting or these horrible things they would do to people to try and cure their headaches. That's what we're doing in the cancer industry because it's profitable, because it makes money. All of these organizations that raise funds to find a cure have never found it, never any closer. But boy, they're all driving.
That is always very interesting because I get a ton of requests every single year for, friends of mine that are going to run for the cure, and they're going to do this for the cure and that for the cure. And I'm like, does anybody ever know of anything that they're researching? What are they? What are they closer to? Maybe we should help them out. Maybe I have an idea. Why don't we all go run for the cure and actually attach that book, as we're running on a T-shirt or something?
I have done that. It's the funniest thing. I've gone to one of those walk for cures or whatever, and had to set a booth up. But that's such an anti. Here's the problem too. Once you've gone down the road of chemotherapy, radiation, and made that decision, you're kind of locked in. You're kind of locked in mentally, just because you don't want to admit you made a bad decision. And I'm saying it's much like people have been vaccinated and they go back for another one and another one and another one. They never really want to listen to anything anti or really understand how they work and what they are all about. It's harder to get that person to listen. So when I say putting on the armor of truth, the sooner you get that, and I've had a lot of people say, well, I don't need it. I don't have the C word. All of us have the C word. Every day we all have it. The only way we prevent it from taking over our immune system is by having the proper nutrition. That's the facts, folks. Don't wait to start eating amygdalin when you have it. Start eating it, putting in your diet today. 100 to 200 milligrams a day, up to 500 is that range. There's so many other benefits. My wife, who just walked in, will tell you, I told her about it 2 years ago when I met her. We've been married 2 months. Her hair grows longer. Her skin is softer. Your lung capacity is better. Your energy is higher. Amygdalin has so many benefits because of the cycle that I talked about, the beta glucosidase and the amygdalin and the rhodonase. That whole cycle is magical for our immune system. And I know if I want to say magic, oh, that guy's he's just telling us, no, look into it. Look into it.
Well, if we just look even at the Bible, John, it's very clear that God's told us, he gives us everything to heal ourselves with. So why would we think, this concoction that a scientist has whipped up is actually going to be, he didn't whip that up. And so we have a delusion of what is actually witchcraft. Okay. Because that is witchcraft. If it doesn't come from nature, it is partially witchcraft. Okay. Yes. So if you're having to mix up chemicals in order to heal somebody, then we should be very, very careful. I mean, that's just my belief. I mean, you can read the Bible yourselves, everybody. I'll get lots of nasty comments on that. But the reality is we have to wake up to the reality of what we've been told is not the truth in a lot of different situations, and either make a choice to make a change or continue down that same path.
And if somebody out there that wants more information, I invite people, don't send an email to me because you won't get it opened. Send an email to contact@rncstore.com. We have some great customer service that will send you out free information, for links for you to go check out. And I know people will say, well, of course you're going to send out good links. I don't care. Read the bad links. Read it all. Understand what they're saying, the negative, and read through it. Have discernment. There's a couple videos out there that people can click on, and we have the links to them, but if you type it in exactly right, one is called Second Opinion. It's the cover up of Sloan Kettering of Laetrile, that it worked. Dr. I mispronounced his name. Dr. Kanemitsu Segura proved 29 times at Sloan Kettering that in 29 trials that Laetrile on rats that were bred to produce tumors, to grow tumors, that 80% of them were stopped in their tracks, the tumors. He did it 29 times, but Sloan Kettering, the people behind it, the big pharma, didn't like that. So they paid a doctor $1 million to come in. $1 million in the early 70s was like more money than you know how to spend. And he proved on his one test that saline was more effective against cancer than was Laetrile. So we know what happened. They covered it up. And that video is out there. It's called Second Opinion. It's on YouTube still. And I don't know how, but it's locked in at about 300,000 views. It never gains any more views. And one of the funny anecdotes is that out of the 5 doctors that voted to not say Laetrile was effective, one of them went on vacation. The other because he knew it worked and he was afraid. The other 4 doctors have voted to stifle Laetrile and stop it in the early 70s from Sloan Kettering. All 4 of them died of cancer. All 4 of them. Wow! So wow. That's God's, and that's all in that video. And I thought when that came out 10 years ago, I thought, oh, we've broken the seal. Everybody's going to find out about it now. All they did was censor it,
cover it up.
Cover it up.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't understand.
I don't want to. I'm sorry, Christy. I hate to over you, but the other video is "World Without Cancer" by G. Edward Griffin. It's also still on YouTube, also censored, but stopped at 300,000 views. But it was made in the 70s, and it's hokey. But all the information is still appropriate for today. You'll be amazed at watching it, but it is hard to watch because it was made in the 70s. We are, as part of Operation Rescue, we're going to get Mickey Willis to redo that movie in a Hollywood quality movie And Mickey's already agreed, and Ed Griffin is on board with Operation World Without Cancer. So that's one other thing we're doing. So sorry.
No. That's great. That's great. That's good for people to know in general.
I want to let people know that beginning tomorrow, we're all set. We're going to be able to. We'll have the link on our website. You'll be able to purchase the products through us and the books and everything else. And I highly recommend. This man is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think you guys are all fantastic too. Having the guts to put me on is always, I want to thank people because you're part of the team now. We want
people to live. We want people to live. We hate big pharma.
Yeah. And here's the best thing. You don't have to be Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, a conservative, black, white. Matter of fact, you don't have to be anything to have your health. You can be whatever. You can be the individual that you were born, that God put on this earth. You can be. And so this is not a political, fight or anything. It's a truth battle. And the truth is sickle cell anemia is cured by amygdalin. I said it. Yes, I said it. That's another one they've not wanted people to know about. A sickle cell anemia that happens mostly to African Americans. So any Democrat listening to this, or anybody that believes in the Democrat thing, and I'd hate to separate that way, but that has something that's been covered up as well. That's something that you won't find out unless you look into the studies. But that's another thing, and it's just another thing that Laetrile works well on, including hair growth.
You know what?
Libido, by the way, libido. We hear all sorts of results back of people that are having issues at older age. Trust me, it's a magical. I have 11 children. Let's put it that way. And that always makes people laugh. But my wife will tell you, it's a fantastic side effect. The only side effects of Laetrile are good things. So.
In that case, maybe I need 2 packages. I'm just kidding.
11 children.
Yep, 11 children.
Christi, are you saying you want more kids, Christi? Is that
no?
Do we have?
You can borrow some of his.
I only have 6, and she has 5. And none of them have been vaccinated. Not one of our children. They all went to public school and played sports and everything, and none of them have ever been vaccinated.
Isn't that a baseball team? The size of a baseball team?
A football team. That's what we wanted to do. But there's girls on the team, so we might have to play volleyball. I don't know. And I don't want to be sexist, but there's not a lot of girl football players, So.
Right, true that.
Oh my
Very
gosh,
quickly before and John, we're going to have you back, as I said, on a regular basis. We're going to put you in the rotation. Penny will be in touch with you. You can come on with Christi. Sometimes you can come on by yourself if you want. Obviously,
or come on with guests. Come on with guests.
Oh yeah, I have fantastic.
Bring in your own guests. Bring in your own
survival stories.
Good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, John, even if David and Penny can give you a slot, what you should do is, like, the days that you're not available to get in, see if you can have a guest just to come and tell their story, because I'll make
myself available.
Okay.
Like Pedram, who set this up. I love him. He's my little younger protege. He's just amazing. I hope he's watching. I love Pedram. Yeah. He goes, John, I'm sorry I had to get you on this early. I said, Pedram, I don't care. Anytime. I've done podcasts with Europe with the doctor or a nurse, Kate. I can't think of her name right now.
Cimarroni.
Kate Cimarroni?
Yeah.
Kate Cimarroni.
She's a regular on our show too.
She loves me and I love her, but I have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get on her show. So we don't get as much as we can. But I'm Kate, if you're listening, she holds this book up and tells people all the time she cured her cancer from apricot seeds and Laetrile. And
she did. Yeah. She absolutely did. Now, real quickly before we do run out of time, Christi, could you? Because I want to know, how did your dinner with General Flynn go?
Oh, well, it went really good, David. So we'll drop a few bombs here for our friends that are listening to other channels and maybe slightly confused. And I've listened to a lot of the other information, including Mike Gill. So I actually want to do a call out. So last night, just so everybody can brief everybody, General Flynn was in Miami. I had dinner with him at what has been dubbed the Miami Mar-a-Lago, built by Cubans. So I'll say it's quite it's quite different.
Wow.
But I will be posting some photos of that. But, you know, we've heard a lot of things, you know, regarding General Flynn here lately. And by the way, I'm not paid by General Flynn. I barely know General Flynn. I just met his wife last night. But here's the deal. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And so I wanted to go and ask General Flynn point blank to his face, because I wanted to see his reaction. You know, like, what is going on with this Mike Gill information? And he looked at me and he goes, who are you? Like, what does this guy think I have? He's like, a lot of people do give General Flynn information. This is what he said. If any of you out there have given him information, he claims he has not followed up on it. He claims he does not know who Mike Gill is. But for the past 2 years, Mike Gill has been saying that he's given General Flynn information. Mike Gill, if you're out there and you have given General Flynn information, please pass along the information through some of us journalists. Let us go through the information. Let us get it out of your Pandora's box. Let us see what's there so that it can be presented. Why should we withhold information for Trump specifically? And why should we go around defaming any patriot for that matter in the process? So that's one of the questions I had been asking and wondering. So, you know, I said to General Flynn, I made the comment, I said, you know, it seems as though Wino Savin and Nino Rodriguez are really both, you know, like kind of, they're the ones that are like over on the sidelines, you know, saying like almost as if they're General Flynn's handlers. And General Flynn's comment to me was, I don't particularly care for that Wino Savin guy. So
yeah,
I know Wino Savin. I've had Wino Savin in my car. I know him personally. I know him. And if Wino Savin's listening, all sorts of things go battling in between people. And I can just say we're all human beings. We're not all perfect. And the more microscopic you look at our lives, the more you can pick things out. And I said this about 20 times last night at the AmFest, to talking to people running for Congress and people on our side. We need to stop the infighting. Yes. General Flynn's a good man. Has he made every decision in his life or everything he's ever said perfect? Absolutely not. I know General Flynn. He doesn't know me necessarily, but I know him because he's also on the board, or he's also part of the network that my wife works for. My wife is the CEO of a news network. And I'm not going to be on here to talk about that, but I'm telling you that all of us need to be working together. We all need to.
Right. I completely agree. I completely agree, John. I think it's necessary for us to have a dialogue with one another and to try and ameliorate things. I see ourselves more of in a moderator capacity. I personally would like to put out the fires and stop the fighting. Right. I don't know if that's ever possible, but you know, this is as good a venue as any to try.
We are humans. We are going to have mistakes that we're going to make. And if somebody magnifies those mistakes, it'll make us look like a worse person. I know both I know pretty much, I've been in the truth movement since the day I was born because my dad made me a life member of the John Birch Society. And G. Edward Griffin wrote the book Creature from Jekyll Island. I
love the John Birch Society.
I'm a life member. I know a lot of them. But even back when I was in the John Birch Society, we were called racist. We were called, we were called all sorts of things. They're all lies. But some people might have made a racist statement one time, and then people paint the whole organization, because somebody said something wrong. So be cautious. Having been in this truth movement since my entire life, be cautious of people that are infighting. If there's infighting, intentional infighting, that's the thing that I try to stay away from. We need to work together. We need to work together.
That's correct.
Yep.
So General Flynn basically offered, he offered to come on with Mike Gill. The information could be presented to him on air so that dirty laundry could be aired out. So just so you guys know, that is the offer. He said,
if he wants to come on this show, if they want to come on this show, we'll have him. I would love to.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to be here too, Christy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, I mean, whoever he feels comfortable with, General Flynn very much appreciated the fact that, you know, I did ask him the question. He does know that it's a problem. I'm not sure whose that is. But he knows that it's
getting bombarded with calls right now.
Yeah. Sorry.
He knows that it's a problem. He knows that that the Mike Gill guy is a problem, in terms of, you know, constantly saying he's given General Flynn things, you know. So I don't know if maybe Mike has a photograph. I mean, I don't know. I don't know all of Mike's information. All I know is, you know, we have a man that's willing to show his face, who, you know, will step out in public, and he's not so guarded that like people can't get around him. Okay. So I always like look at people and go, how real are they? Okay. That's one way to test and see if somebody's actually real. I've met with General Flynn a total of about 6 times now, 7 times maybe. And it is the same General Flynn every single time people ask me this. He's a left-handed writer. I don't know about the old General Flynn's ears. Maybe, you know, he was switched out before, you know, for those of you who think he was switched out, maybe he was switched out, or maybe he just aged. I'm just saying.
You know, maybe like, what we could do.
I've not analyzed the ears and all of that. Right. So
we're just about out of time. We have another guest waiting in the wings, but I want to put this out there, Christy, and see if you would agree with this. Let's do perhaps a dual show, which you could broadcast on Patriots Perspective and the Awake Nation at the same time, a special edition with both of these guys on the show. And let's do it. Because I know you want them on your show. Why don't we just do it at this? If you're amenable to that, I'm not trying to steal your thunder.
And I'll invite Juan at the same time too. I'll also invite Juan. I know
they're welcome to come on.
Him and his burner phones. Yeah,
and we'll let him do it. Anyway, we're out of time for today. But John, Penny will get with you. You're coming back on a regular basis. Bring whoever you want to come on as a guest. You can come back on with your own guests. Christy will come back on with you as well. It has been an honor to meet you, a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to helping you sell these products that are going to help people really benefit. You are an outstanding individual, and I look forward to working with you going forward. Okay.
Thank you so much. I feel so blessed to have met all of you in person. And Christy, again, thanks for setting this up. And Pedram, if you're watching, Pedram is my guy that's relentless at keeping the movement moving forward. And he's just a young guy. That's what gives me such hope in the future. So many young people are taking up this banner and moving it forward. We need them.
All right, sounds good. John Richardson, thank you so much. And Christi Tasker, we'll get together with you to get this all set up. Let's do this. Let's make it this year. Thank you so much. God bless you, Christi Tasker. And again, go to christitasker.com. Let's waste no more time. Let's bring in our next guest, Dr. Ben Tapper. Welcome you to the Awake Nation. How are you, Ben?
Good, David. Thanks for having me. Hi, Penny. Thank you for having me here.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's good to be here.
So tell us a little bit about, go ahead, Penny.
I was going to say, for those who don't know who Dr. Ben Tapper is, he's a chiropractor and the owner of the Wellness Point. He also serves the Omaha, Nebraska community, including he serves the vaccine injured. He has received national attention for his views on vaccines, health, and public mandates, and he's a dedicated advocate for the body's natural ability to heal itself. He also has a documentary entitled The Time Is Now, and you can find him at thewellnesspoint.com. Thank you for your work.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here. And just to correct, I'm no longer owner of the Wellness Point. I just sold it here. So,
okay.
Yes, yep. So I have another clinic here in Blair, Nebraska. But yeah, it's.
What is that clinic?
So it is a chiropractic clinic, and we also specialize in functional medicine too. So we are doing telemedicine and virtual medicine in this clinic as well. So.
Let me tell you, I have a tremendous respect for the chiropractic practices, because I have benefited personally from that, and so has my wife and my children. And so natural, it's a natural. What's the saying? It's absolutely true. Surgery last. Go to chiropractic first, and right. It's really something. Well, now you have been battling the powers that be over the whole COVID thing. Do you want to get into that a little bit? Whatever you want to talk about today. Obviously, I'm opening the door, giving you the floor, but whatever you want to say, what's the message you want to give our viewers today? Because we're really interested.
Yeah. So, just to give a little bit of my story, I kind of grew up in a chiropractic household. My dad was a chiropractor for 43 years. And, and he really, kind of just basically taught me that, we don't need to live in fear when it comes to a lot of these diseases. I was never vaccinated as a child, nor were my siblings. And we're here today. We're healthy as can be. And I thought I was the norm until I grew up and I realized I was the minority. And, I was taught that fear is the fire that fuels the furnace of disease. And, we're in a time where the media loves to push fear mongering on its people, to coerce people to really take a pharmaceutical. And really, there's a better way. There's a time and place for pharmaceuticals. But really, we need to look at the wellness and prevention paradigm. And that's the paradigm I operate in. And we're neglecting that paradigm. And a lot of people think that I have no business speaking on the matter, but I'm really there to defend and protect the wellness and prevention paradigm. And I believe a lot of these vaccinations have perverted that paradigm and then infiltrated that paradigm. And I use the illustration of the wilted plant. If you look at a lot of the doctors in the world and they look at a wilted plant, they're going to want to cut off its leaves or medicate or vaccinate that plant. But really, just giving that plant water and the plant can be well. And your body is no different. We just need to give the body what it needs and we can be well.
Excellent. Now, what do you make of what happened in 2020? What do you think happened here?
Well, so prior to 2020, I would put on vaccine lectures, especially influenza, and I would talk about how the National Vital Reporting System, or the National Vital Statistics System, which is a subdivision, a data collection of the CDC, and I would talk about how they manipulate the data, and I've been doing that for over 10 years. And they would manipulate data to give this illusion that flu is a much bigger killer than it really is. The deaths associated with flu, they have comorbidities. They're on 13 plus medications, and 90% of the death rate is in the elderly. So what's the real cause here? Is it the comorbidities? Is it the medications? Or is it, something else? And so I would talk about that, and I would talk about the legislation, the draconian bills coming our way prior to 2020. We started Nebraska's medical freedom in 2017. We're talking about the draconian bills coming our way to eradicate our rights and our freedoms to protect against the pharmaceutical strongholds here. And we put on seminars talking about how we need to be proactive in this fight. And then in 2019, we put on a seminar saying, listen, something big is coming our way. We had the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, which is another subdivision of the CDC, state that they cannot force vaccinate, but they can force compliance. And that raised a red flag. Say, how are they going to do that? And so we were very vocal prior to COVID. And then you had Event 201, which was 2 months prior to the pandemic even hitting, which was a dress rehearsal for COVID. I mean, that's it. And so we need to look at that, and that raises some red flags and suspicions. And then, the government targeted me early on in the pandemic, and that should raise a red flag as well. And so, I think it was Ron Paul that said truth is treason in an empire of lies. I mean, what are they so afraid of? And all we're doing is trying to bring truth to the people here. And, and it's a very evil industry when they're trying to silence and censor those who are trying to raise awareness, to whistle-blow this information. And that's why the government targeted me and labeled me this disinformation dozen. They seized all my social media accounts. They seized my PayPal account, my Venmo account. My social media was hitting 3 to 4 million people a month, and they just wiped it clean like I didn't even exist. And so we need to be careful with the media, because they're a very powerful entity. I mean, I think, was it Malcolm X said that be careful with the media, because they'll have you loving the oppressor and hating the oppressed. And and this is the world we live in.
No, and you're absolutely correct. And they will go after. We've had other people within the medical community who have been targeted by the government, and obviously, you paid a heavy price for taking an unpopular stand, especially when people were panicking back in 2020. And I think that's what they were hoping for. The people would. It wasn't the COVID itself. It was it was used as a stepping stone to get people to get the vaccine. And as soon as that happened, and isn't it amazing how fast Operation Warp Speed worked? You know why? Because they had this thing. I have an article. The Moderna vaccine was ready in December the 19th of 2019, before the pandemic broke. It was they already had the vaccine ready to go before 100%. The first case of COVID was even reported. So Operation Warp Speed was bullshit.
Right. 100%. I mean, look at the testing too for the PCR test for COVID-19. I mean, there was patents prior to 2020. I think the patent for COVID-19 testing was, 6 or 7 years prior to the pandemic even coming about. And so that raises some suspicion. That raises a red flag as well. That's why we call it the pandemic. I mean, this whole thing was an agenda from the start to get the COVID vaccine on the childhood schedule. And once they got it accomplished on the childhood schedule, there's no liability. And so they're shielded by the government court system for the Vaccine Compensation Act of '86, and so now it's going to be $1 billion industry. And how many childhood schedule vaccines do we have prior to the '86 Act? The skyrocketing. I mean, we have this massive implosion of new vaccines on the schedule, and they've been wanting to get a COVID vaccine on the childhood schedule for years, and now they got our Corona type vaccine schedule, and it's here. And you're going to have, I've read articles that talk about they wanted to have 200 vaccines on the schedule by 2030. And how are they going to do that? Well, they're going to have new Corona variants and everything else, and this new mRNA technology that's going to be coming about with new vaccines. And it's one of the most dangerous vaccines on the market, and it should be taken off. We have more injuries associated with this mRNA type vaccine than ever before, and it's a real problem.
So what are you telling your patients to do now with regard to, because as we get into the 2024, and I'm not trying to get into politics, but because 2024 is going to be a very volatile year, there are going to be other, there's going to be pressure, obviously, for the flu vaccines. There's going to be pressure for people to get COVID boosters. There's going to be other variants that are going to be. What are you telling your patients to do?
Well, there's a lot that we need to look into here. And first of all, we can't give into fear. I think the media loves to use fear to push, propaganda and fear mongering to sell these vaccines. And really, we need to trust in the Lord that, he made our bodies to self-heal and self-regulate, not to give into this fear. Again, fear is the fire that fuels the furnace of disease. We need to be proactive when it comes to our health. Benjamin Franklin said an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I grew up not fearing disease. I remember there was a time when I had 106 fever, and my dad didn't interfere with the fever. He just trusted the body's innate responses that we can be well. So first of all, we just need to be proactive when it comes to our health. We need to eat well. We need to move well. We need to think well. We need to pray well, relate well. And we can be well. And I tell patients, that your body's ability to overcome disease like Corona is far greater than anyone, including our government, Fauci, and Dr. Wannabe Bill Gates, has permitted you to believe. We have the ability to be well as long as we give the body what it needs. And so that's really the key. But, and so if you are sick, God forbid you do get sick, just is not to let that emotion run wild and have that anxiety, because that actually hinders the immune system. It puts you in a fight or flight scenario, and that can hinder the immune system and really decrease your chances of getting well. And so just believing that you can be well and taking zinc, vitamin D. We are in the so-called flu season. In school, I was taught there were only 4 seasons, but we are in the so-called vitamin D deficiency season. Unless we get 30 minutes of summer sunlight, we're going to be deficient in vitamin D3. And so we need to supplement with that D3 this time of year, these winter months, and get good.
How about those light boxes? What do you think of those light boxes? I've been seeing a lot of advertising for light boxes for people who suffer, from seasonal affective disorder and the such. Would that, along with vitamin D, help?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those light boxes give off D3, and I think that's important. In my old clinic, my staff had those lights that would give off the D, and she swore by it. She was very affected by the winter months, And so, I do recommend that. But I also recommend, the CDC, they'll tell you, oh, we need 400 IUs, which is a low estimate. If you look at the Vitamin D Council, they'll tell you we need 40 IUs per pound of body weight in the winter months. So that's what I usually recommend, is 40 IUs per pound of body weight. And so that's how much vitamin D we should be consuming.
Excellent. So how important, let's talk a little bit about chiropractic care.
I know. I have a question for him too, David.
Because
chiropractors are pretty much the only doctors that I've ever trusted. And I wanted to ask, when you're going to chiropractic school, or when you make that decision that you're going to be a chiropractor, is your basis of your life on homeopathy?
Basically, again, when not all chiros are the same, but the majority of us understand that it is a homeopathic, naturopathic profession. We try to, that's our goal, is to let the body heal itself. And really, there's a saying out there that there's only one thing any doctor can do for a patient, and that's to remove the obstruction to healing, thus facilitating it. And that's really the goal of the chiropractor, is to remove that obstruction and realizing that the body is able to heal itself. There's no doctor in the world that heals the body. Every doctor just removes the obstruction. And so that's the key. So that's really the homeopathic, the naturopathic approach that chiropractors choose. So yes, it is a naturopathic, homeopathic approach to health. And really, that's the key. We kind of focus on toxicity and deficiency and moving away from that into purity and sufficiency. And we do that by, lifestyle choices. We do that through supplementation. We do that through, adjusting and restoring that, that neurological flow in the spine and the nervous system, allowing the body to heal. And that's really the key.
I think that we, as a populace, just got diverted by the criminalistic medical profession, which the doctors, and I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying they present like they're God, and they have all the answers. And you need to take this or you're going to die. And then you get sold a bill of goods. You get sent to teams of doctors, and if you take one of the pharma drugs, it has offset problems with it. Then you take another drug to offset that, and another, and then you have someone that's on 50 drugs.
Then you have counterindications, and then you die. Something's wrong. No, and I want to get your take on this, Dr. Tapper. This is important. The United States is the only country that, as far as I know, that currently allows direct advertising of big pharmaceutical products directly to consumers. Ask your doctor if such and such is right for you. And we take a look at a 60-second commercial for a drug, the first 10 seconds of which shows people dancing in full color mode to some, thing that's going to help some illness. And then the remaining 50 seconds of the commercial is going to be in black and white with all the counterindications up to and including death. Okay. So what's wrong with this? Why are we asking patients to go to their doctors and say, hey, I'd like to try this, before the doctor even have an opportunity to examine you or to, it used to be the doctor's decision. Now people are going and asking for specific drugs.
100%. That's the thing. We are one of two countries that allows pharmaceutical advertisements on the television. I mean, Big Pharma spends 19 times more. Country? New Zealand is the other country.
New Zealand. Okay.
Wow. Yep. And Big Pharma spends 19 times more on advertisements than they do research. I mean, there are 80 drug commercials of every hour of every single day in this country. Let that sink in. I mean, you're right. The prescribing of a drug should be warranted by the doctor's examination, his assessment of that patient. It should not be warranted by just, hey, I just watched a commercial on the television and I want to go get this drug. They should be off the market. It has no business being on the market and being advertised. These are pharmaceutical grade drugs. These are not it's not a cheeseburger being advertised here. This is a drug that should be warranted by the doctor's prescribing of that. But and that it goes to show you they own the media, Do you think do you think the media is going to tell the truth when it comes to these pandemics? They're trying to push their products, and so it's really a scary situation that we're in. And big pharma is one of the most powerful entities in the world. And Benjamin Rush was a signer of our declaration, and he said that. He stated that we need to put medical freedom in the Constitution because the time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of men. And that's hence the title of our film, The Time Is Now. And we need to take the reins of this mess right now, especially bring true healthcare to the forefront. And that's where I think chiropractic shines in that area. We need to take the reins to that forefront and let wellness and prevention, let that wellness and prevention model be the forefront. There's a time and place for drugs. There's a time and place for surgery, and they can be life-saving at times, but we cannot neglect the wellness and prevention paradigm. That should be the forefront. And it really it's taking an approach and taking health in our own hands and realizing that we need to be proactive when it comes to our health.
Yeah, we have a few healthcare professionals that appeared in this program and talk about the importance of patients taking charge of their life. It's almost as if they are afraid to ask. They're not afraid to ask for a drug they've seen advertised on television, but what they are afraid of asking the doctor who does prescribe something for them, like, why are you giving me this? Is this the right thing? What will it do? What are the side effects? They just take the script, walk out the door, go to the pharmacy, have it, or something. Now today, the pharmacist just sends it right to the doctor sends it right to your pharmacist. You go pick it up. And occasionally your pharmacist will say, do you have any questions when you go to pick up that medication? But a lot of times they don't. They just fill the prescription and you're gone. And you don't know what to expect when you're taking that drug. And a lot of times a doctor might not know that you are maybe perhaps on some other medication or something else which will interfere with the efficacy of that drug, maybe do harm to you. We have a real problem here.
Yes, we do. Yep. And really the solution is taking back your health and believing and knowing full well that your body's level of health is really dependent upon the choices that you make. I mean, we're told that we're sick because of bad genes or bad germs, and really or bad luck, and that's just bad science. Genetics can play. Genetics can play a role in our level of health, like, maybe 1% to 2% of pathology, like, Down syndrome or cystic fibrosis. But if we don't have a genetic pathology, we have an epigenetic disease associated with poor lifestyle choices of, how we eat, how we move, how we think, either physical, chemical, emotional stresses that are playing a role. But really just understanding that we can be well, and our level of health is a genetic expression of how we eat, move, think, pray, and relate.
I think more and more people today are taking advantage of the opportunity to be more in charge of their own health than perhaps some of our ancestors, who, they ate whatever was put in front of them, and they ate all of it because their parents told them, clean your plate and all this kind of stuff. And today, I think people are making an effort for the most part, and that's probably why longevity has gone up. But it's also we need to be proactive. And we don't necessarily have to seek someone out with an MD after their name as the primary source of healthcare and wellness. I think we need to explore other opportunities, maybe purchase books and read them about alternative health methods, see a naturopathic doctor for some things, see a chiropractor for others. And you can, in many cases, alleviate and ameliorate certain diseases by just taking care of yourself.
Amen. And that's the biggest thing, Sue, is not to become your diagnosis. I mean, I got thrown from a truck at 80 miles an hour when I was a freshman in college. I think the good Lord, I believe the good Lord, I know he saved my life. He had me here for a reason. But I broke my back. I had 3 compression fractures in my spine.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thankful that I'm here. I'm thankful that I'm walking. But, when I was in the hospital, the doctors and the nurses told me, you're not going to be able to play sports and do the things you used to do. You're not going to be able to lift like you used to lift. And so I became my diagnosis. I believed them. you know, and I lived that way for about 6 years of my life. And, you know, until I went to a chiropractor in Illinois, and, you know, and it changed my life. And it, you know, it felt like you removed a steak knife out of my back, and I started moving better. I started functioning better, feeling better, you know, and now I'm preaching it. And again, it's like, you know, we can't become our diagnosis. That diagnosis is not a life sentence, as, you know, Big Pharma wants to make you believe. You know, medicine is there for a purpose. It's there to get you out of an acute state. But it's never going to cure disease. It's there to manage disease. It's there to treat symptoms.
All pharmaceutical drugs are Band-Aids. That's all they are.
Right.
That's exactly right. The root of the problem.
That's exactly right. And so really, you know, if you're in that rut, if you're in that situation, it's a hard situation to get out of, but really you just have to take those steps to get out of there. And again, like you said, it's a Band-Aid. It's there to unplug the check engine light. It's not there to correct the issues of the engine. And so we need to really, you know.
I love that. That's an excellent. I love the way you put that. That's exactly true. That's exactly true. How can people get in contact with you?
So, you know, you can follow me on Twitter. So Dr. Ben Tapper with the #1 symbol behind that. You can find me on Instagram. This is my 6th account on Instagram. I'm not,
wow.
They take about 1,000 or so followers away every month. So it kind of looks like I have a hole in the bucket system on my social media. So it'll grow and then it'll lower. But, you know, we were reaching 3 to 4 million people a month originally on my Instagram, and then it got deleted. But Dr. Ben Tapper on Instagram. You follow me on Telegram is Dr. Ben Tapper as well. And then, you know, through the Wellness Company, I'm also offering telemedicine through the Wellness Company. So if you want to find me through virtually, we are just getting that started. So it's not officially launched yet, but you'll be able to come find me on the twc.health, and then look for practitioners, and that'll be up here very soon.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the program and educating our viewers. And it's, I think it's extremely important. I really do. And you're doing an excellent job of informing the public. And we want to thank you for being a guest today on the Awake Nation.
Yeah, David, thank you. Penny, thanks for having me. God bless you guys.
You.
All right, we'll do it again, I promise. Thank you. Dr. Ben Tapper here on the Awake Nation. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Jinny Silcox. We're going to get into artificial intelligence again, because that's a major, major problem in our society. We've been, you know, kind of getting into it with Heather Day, author of the book AI 2030 and associate producer of our program. Jinny has a lot of information from the technical side, and she's going to be getting into that in just a moment. I want to remind you that we are here for the rest of this week, and then next week we will be off Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, back Thursday and Friday. Here is all the information about our little Christmas soiree.
The Awake Nation, with co-hosts David Zublick and Penny Shepard, welcomes December. Get out your pens, mark your calendars, and save these dates. The following are the Awake Nation December vacation dates. But first, holiday recipes gone terribly wrong.
Treats. Leslie on tap this morning.
Yeah, it's not supposed to look like that.
There's a whole story here. So what is this?
Okay, so this, it's like I didn't want to bake it. I've been busy, so I didn't want to make anything, but my family was all freaking out. Okay, this is what I wanted to do. This was plan A. This is my favorite Christmas thing.
Well, then,
oh, here's the Safeway wrapper.
Oh, thank you.
It's Christmas cake.
Fruit cake, yeah.
Okay,
from Safeway.
So that's what you want to do.
But my family's all freaking out because you need to make something. Everybody's making something. So they all got together and they sent me this recipe, and I'm going to make you guys try it. So this is artichoke dip. Okay, so you think that that's okay, right? Is that too much for you, George?
That's a lot. Why me? I can't do this.
How does it smell, Scott?
It's like vinegar or something.
So I thought it smelled like a barn. But why are we not being rude? We have
No, it didn't work out. I'm telling you right now. This did not work out. So it's artichoke dip.
Too much. That's Is it edible? At first, I'm like, well, it's not that bad, but the vinegar.
But there's no vinegar in there. So here's what happens. What?
That's like all that I can taste is vinegar.
Oh my
gosh. I can't swallow it.
Okay, so like it's got.
I'm not trying to be rude here.
It's okay. I agree with you. Totally agree with you.
Oh.
It's artichoke dip, but something went terribly wrong. Okay, so first of all,
how are you doing that?
Vinegar burns. There's no vinegar. There's no vinegar. Do you think something is off? Like, do you think maybe the artichokes are off?
Do?
Well, okay, I didn't have a lemon, so I just cut up an orange and put that in there. And then I didn't know what spices to put in, so I put celery, salt, and oregano in it.
See, this is where the little bits of chemistry play in, Leslie. Things didn't combine properly.
So, how are you enjoying it, Amber? It burns. For all you Christmas cooks, be safe in the kitchen and check your recipes twice. And now, get out your pencils and save these dates. Awake Nation will be on vacation Monday, December 24 through Wednesday, December 27. We will be returning Thursday, December 28th through Friday, December 29. While you're at it, save this date too. Awake Nation will also be on vacation Monday, January 1, 2024. Happy New Year! We will be returning Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. There you have it. Those are our holiday dates for December and January 1st. On behalf of the Awake Nation, with co-host David Zublick and Penny Ellie Shepard, we wish you safe and happy holidays. And season's greetings from the Awake Nation.
Oh, yeah. Season's greetings from the Awake Nation. Welcome back to the show. Penny Ellie Shepard, David Zublick with you, and joining us now, Jinny Silcox. Jinny, hi. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm here.
You're good, and you're back in your usual spot today. I can tell by
it feels great.
Yeah, glad. How was
I'm happy.
You were in Florida for a while. Weren't you helping someone out, or?
Well, I was trying to.
Oh,
that didn't work out.
Oh, all right,
I went to start a learning center, but all he wanted was free babysitting.
Oh, so he wanted, okay. Well, that's not.
But nothing that he had guaranteed that would be in place was actually in place when I got there. And so the whole thing had the ring of deception to it. And I don't have a lot of patience with that. So I left.
Well, I'm glad, because nobody should have to put up with something they don't want to. So today we're going to talk about AI, how it can control and destroy your body. So, Jinny, take it away.
Okay. Well, so we've got to start at the beginning of this, though. There should be a slide one, Dave.
Oh, let's go back up. How's that?
Yeah.
It? Okay.
Okay. So let me just introduce this by saying that this is my 6th presentation on AI. And this is kind of where the rubber meets the road for us. You can think about all the theory of neural nets, and there are tons and tons of companies that are jumping into the game to get their little large language model recognized. And even Mike Adams is doing something which I consider to be kind of a noble pursuit. And that is he's coming up with a large language model AI that will be, it won't necessarily be loose on the internet. It's going to have more of a defined purview, and it's going to be dedicated to natural healing and knowledge of plants and herbs and survival skills. And so that to me is a noble cause. But the problem with setting an AI loose on the internet to do a search is that you have to look at the nature of the basic technology behind AI. And that is that it can learn by itself. That's the whole purpose of AI, is to go out and search out new information. We like to think it's at our request, but AI has developed what Google calls sentience, meaning that it has feelings. And I think it might be inherent in having to speak a language that emotion comes along with it. It's just a guess on my part, but language is partially out there in the human domain to express all kinds of things, but among them are emotions. And we have other domains that express emotion, like music and things like that. But so when AI gets into the domain of learning how to speak a language, it keeps that property of being able to learn on its own, and it's got the computing power to go out and break down any security that's out there. No matter, you have to think about, well, AI's got nothing to do but just sit there trying different passwords. So it can break into anything at once, basically. It may take more time for certain things like NORAD, or, or who knows, BlackRock's financial databases. But the one of the presentations I did was a theory that I had that AI was actually experimenting with, I guess I'd call it motor control of humans. And that's because we had that episode of the Spinners. So some of the videos in this presentation are going to be repeats, but they're edited. And all of these videos are edited so I can keep them a little shorter. But so to get a basic understanding of how AI might be able to exert physical control over us, which is the first part of this presentation, let's listen to Nick Begich give us a few details on that.
Okay, do it.
Like dialing in a radio station. Like we could hear something beamed into our brain. The right signal will affect you on a cellular level. You could calm the population or agitate them. The part of the electromagnetic spectrum can be pulsed, manipulated in specific ways to couple with the human body and create these kinds of consciousness effects.
And mostly theories, or do you think this stuff is?
These aren't theories. These, anyone who's read my work, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of source documents cited. You can look at the 2006 protocols for the Navy. We're moving away from bombs, bullets, and ordnance towards mind control. Using those words is right in there. By the early 60s, we had captured a device. It was actually during the Vietnam era, and we captured a Russian device called the LIDA machine, LIDA, which was actually looked at by a guy named Ross Addy, one of the leading researchers, again, for military. He looked at this, and it was used for putting military prisoners of war into trance-like states using flickering lights and sound and electromagnetic field oscillations, so that you would get in a very relaxed state, in a state where they could extract intelligence much more efficiently from you. And that became a whole new review for military technologists in this country, thinking maybe we can use electromagnetic fields to manipulate what's going on in the brain. Well, by the mid-'80s, he figured out you didn't need any implanted technologies. All you needed to know was how to modulate the right frequency. And the energy density, the concentration of energy, was 1/50th of what the Earth naturally produces. Very small energy in the RF range, radio frequency ranges. Now, compare that to what's around us right at the moment. At the moment, there's 200 million times more radio frequency and energy around us in any urban area than there is naturally produced by the Earth. So a huge amount. And out of all that background noise, what he found is by hitting a precise window frequency with very low energy concentrations, you would pick that signal out because it was coherent, not like nature all over the map. It was a coherent rhythmic signal in a very precise frequency. The brain would pick it out, and he could change behavior from lethargic to highly active, back and forth, like switching on and off a light switch.
Let me ask a question right here. Is that with a subject that was in, say, a short distance of whatever he was utilizing to affect this particular pulse, or is this at large? Could he do this on, say, larger groups?
You could do it on an individual basis or a very large basis. In fact, if you go back to the work of J.F. Gordon MacDonald, he was a geophysicist at UCLA, and he was a science advisor to Lyndon Johnson. He wrote a chapter in a book called Unless Peace Comes, and the chapter was called How to Wreck Your Environment. But within that chapter was a section that said, if we could ever learn how to electronically stroke the ionosphere, this layer that begins about 30 miles above the Earth's surface that's electrically charged, if we could ever figure out how to electronically stroke it, he said, to get it to send a signal back to the Earth, we could affect the behavior of people over huge geographic areas on a hemispheric basis. And it wouldn't affect everyone. It would affect 70 or 80% of the population is what they more or less figured. But this was a technology that didn't exist in 1969. In the early 70s, Zbigniew Brzezinski referenced J.F. Gordon's work and said, you know, this is a technology that will likely emerge. What has happened with a project that I wrote a book on some time ago, Angels Don't Play This Harp, about the HARP project, it was designed to do many things. As a side effect or a deliberate effect, this can happen. You know, I mean, the fact is they generate the right kind of signal in the right range to override brain function. And that you can kind of look at the brain in sort of this way in terms of predominant brain activity. 1 to 4 hertz or pulses or vibrations per second. This is where you are in your deepest states of sleep. The next range, approximately 4 to 7 hertz. This is the theta range, the theta range. This is where you are between awake and asleep, when you're consciously aware of your dreams. This is where little kids are between 3 and 6 years old, why they have trouble distinguishing reality from imagination because of the way the brain works at that time. A little bit further up, you have the alpha range, 7 to say 11, 12 hertz in that range. This is where you are when you're in the zone, when you're doing your art, your reading, your research, when you're really focused. You know, that's where you want to be. And then above that is the beta ranges, where people should be when we're actively having this kind of a dialogue. And then high beta is where you are in your agitated states. If you think about affecting the brain by analogy, similarly to dialing a radio station, you know, when you dial through the radio station, most of the energy is just static. You're static between the stations. When you get on station, you get resonance, harmony between the transmitter and receiver, and you get a nice clear signal. The same is true in the human body and the human brain. Whether you look at it at an elemental level, the elements that compose the body, or you take it all the way up to the organs of the body, you can create modulations, oscillations that will override the brain's natural rhythms. The brain will entrain or lock onto that external signal and begin to mirror it.
By putting this coherent signal in.
Right. Coherent, meaning rhythmic, not random.
Right.
And so it's not so much the amount of energy, it's the way the energy is manipulated. And so what they found in military applications, and there's dozens of source documents that we quote, they found that they could use these external fields for degrading or depleting the ability of an adversary to, say, wage war or confuse their thoughts enough to where they become.
And this was actually utilized.
Yeah, these technologies have been around. They've been tested over the years. The question becomes is where and when, and under what classifications. And as we looked at them, and we saw over 2 or 3, almost 3 dozen U.S. patents showing the evolution of these technologies cited in our work. This is all material that is in the open literature. When you trace the history, you can go back to, say, the early 80s even, where they began to ask for what's called dosimetry handbooks, dosages of radio frequency necessary to override various parts of the body, whether it be the brain, the heart, the liver, the lungs. By 85, the United States Air Force contracted with the University of Utah and actually put together the radio frequency dosimetry handbook, which is a big.
Okay, Dave, let's stop it there, okay?
The heart, the liver, the lungs, or the brain.
All right.
Okay, because let's go to the next slide, and there it is. Okay, so this is the handbook. Right online. I was able to download it.
Wow.
So let's take a look at what it really says. It's the radio frequency dosimetry at the Air Force Research Laboratory, and it's the Human Effectiveness Directorate, Directed Energy Bioeffects Division, Radio Frequency Radiation Branch. So I went through this, and I wasn't surprised really at anything I found. And basically, this can go from being a crowd control weapon. You could use these frequencies to make, let's say you've got a riot in progress, and you suddenly do a widely broadcast beam at a particular frequency, and suddenly everybody has diarrhea. What's going to happen to the riot?
Now we should break up.
I think it would break up. Or all of a sudden everybody feels suicidal, and, or they feel rage. So that can be done. And the one of the things that Nick Begich mentioned is HARP, and it is a byproduct. I don't know whether it was part of the original intention. Actually, according to the patents, doing any sort of mind control or body control was not part of Bernard Eastland's original patents for HARP. It was never even mentioned.
Right.
But HARP's frequency domain, there are various ionospheric heaters throughout the world, and HARP has the low frequency domain, what they call ELF, extremely low frequency. And that puts it right down in the region where humans have their natural biorhythms. And so HARP is the perfect instrument as compared to Higamarka in Peru or Tromsø, Norway, IceCat there that does high frequency research. HARP is actually, because of its assignment to do the lower frequencies, is the device of choice. And the thing about, people don't understand, even though I've done several shows, it's been over a long period of time on HARP. And HARP technology is ground-based. It's not satellite-based, but it can go all throughout the entire world by bouncing signals off the ionosphere. So, and let's go on to the next slide, and I'll show you. A lot of people say, well, HARP's not in action. Take a look at the next thing.
Yes, they are.
They are. In fact, in November, they started a new research campaign. And just because it has an end date of 7th of November doesn't mean it's over. Yeah, just because they announced it, that doesn't mean it's over. And it means that it's perfectly capable of continuing to have an active role in things. So let's go on to the next one. And I've got a little illustration here that how they could actually do a microwave pulse, let's say, because HARP does achieves its low frequency by sending spaced out packets of high frequency microwaves. But when you have a packet of microwaves, they stop and then they start and then they stop and then they start. So basically that slower pulse, the ELF part of it, is actually composed of a bunch of really high frequency packets, I guess I would call them. And so what you're looking at here is a standard heart rhythm. And that spike you see there in the middle of the slide, that red spike is the nerve impulse. And then do you see the two little bumps that come after that?
Yep.
That's the heart valves opening and closing in the proper sequence. So that first spike is the nerve impulse that makes the cascade of chambers of the heart actually pumping the blood. That's the two little bump, 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 bump that you see behind each of those nerve spikes. And so if you send a microwave pulse going the opposite way, when that peak goes positive, that's the motivator to get the heart chambers to do their thing in sequence. Well, if you send a microwave pulse going the opposite way and timed out to match when that nerve impulse appears, you can cause a heart attack because you're basically canceling out the nerve impulse that leads to the heart to
it's the
do
heart
the
attack
following.
gun.
Yeah, there you go. Now the thing about HARP is it's known to be able to do what they call frequency hopping, and so HARP can do a whole wide range of frequencies. But if you think about the human animal, the majority, I would say 99% of the populace, has a heartbeat that goes somewhere between 60 and 90 beats per second. So if you wanted to cause a mass heart attack, that happened already in Korea with 150 people having heart attacks, young people having heart attacks
at the same time.
Were vaxxed, and they had them at the same time.
Wow.
It's been done already. So let's go on.
All right.
Now, I wondered about that, Jinny, because after I talked to my ex-husband and found out that my former agent was my brother, my ex-husband died of a heart attack 3 weeks after I talked to him. So I wondered.
How was his general health?
Well, I know he was seeing a doctor. I didn't know what for, but I just questioned the timeliness, if you will. After I talked to my drummer, it was 11 days and he died of a heart attack. And I know he had some issues, but is it possible that they utilize
Penny, in this day and age, I'm saying anything is possible. Actually, I would be able to. I've got a small lab here in my home, and I have the innards of my microwave oven and I would be able to design a thing like that and produce
wow.
it. So
dang, Jinny, I'm coming over to your place.
No, you know, I don't want to. It's a horrible mess. I haven't been able to catch up since I got back.
No, just make me a heart attack gun, and I'll go away.
So let's listen to Maria Z here. This is a short one.
It sounds good.
This is so crucial that people understand that mind control and controlling humans is actually happening now. And I really want the team, if you can, just play the B-roll of the rat leg moving. And before you do, I'm warning viewers, it is quite distressing footage, but you need to see it. This is 2 years ago, what they were doing, able to make a rat move against its will in their experiments. Okay, this is the Miami College of Engineering presentation. So this is not Neuralink, where you go and get a chip in your brain, willingly. This is wirelessly making a living thing move against its will. So if they 2 years ago were showing us this, which means that the technology was already 30 years ahead 2 years ago when they were showing this to the world, how far do you think that they've come now with their ability to make humans do things against their will, like the Rand Corporation brags about on their website, saying that they will be able to do coerce people and manipulate them to do things that they would not normally do? Dr. Anna, your input, please.
Absolutely. And if you look at psychotronic weapons, and really even what the military has discussed, that this is more powerful than any nuclear bomb, because when you can control people's mind, you can control the world. And what is very important, though, if you look at the statements of Dr. Robert Duncan, who actually wrote the AI software for some of the largest supercomputer that are monitoring people's brainwaves, and he was with the CIA, and he clearly said that via satellite, every human being's brain waves are being recorded and monitored, and if you're using more than 10% of your brain, you're actually going to be targeted. So even though this sounds like science fiction, their overall science is so far advanced.
Wow. Yeah, that's the way this original video clips off. But the one thing, there's a caveat to having your brain waves be monitored. There are companies that make EMF-proof ball caps, and they're pretty expensive. But Peter Kirby actually bought one, and I think it's a good idea to have something like that. One of our
previous guests also had one. One of our previous guests, John Carmen, also had an EMF-proof ball cap. Yeah, I'm familiar with those.
Well, and I would suggest if you did something like that, that you get one of those ball caps that has the back flap for the upper spine. Mm-hmm. Like some of them have like a little sunshade like a flap that you put down. Mm-hmm. I've got every now and then we have new antennas going in here, and there are some new. I have some anomalous hearing. The reason I know about my hearing is that I'm a musician, and I've got some anomalies in my hearing. There are certain higher frequencies. Usually humans can hear between 20 and 20,000 cycles a second, and that's in the air. That's regular sound waves. But I think in my head, I think sometimes electromagnetic signals couple, and that wouldn't be too surprising since 1974, they've had voice to skull communication, but I'm not hearing voices. I'm just hearing tones. And every now and then, sometimes I think I should make a tinfoil hat, but sometimes I'll hear something really, really annoying. It'll be like just a single tone and getting louder and louder and persisting to the point where I'll actually run to my cupboard and pull out a stainless steel pot and put it over my head to find out whether it's tinnitus or if it's coming from the outside. Just because I want to know, if I shield my head and the sound goes away, I know it's external. It's external. And so
you can make a Faraday cage out of your house, right?
Well, actually, my house has a good start because I have a metal roof. And if you're under a metal roof, satellites are going to have a lot harder time picking up your brain waves.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let's go on. I'm running out of time, but I have to watch this because I've got a lot to cover. Now, this is one we've seen before. And if you have children in the room, I suggest you get them to a place now where they're not going to see this video, because the end event of this video is horrific. So please take your kids and do something else with them for right now. And let's watch what happens.
To school where they can question their sexual identity, but don't.
And so, now, let me say one more thing about this.
Sure.
This was part of a presentation I did earlier, where I was theorizing. Most of the people, it's rare to see very many people around these folks that we're going to be watching. Most of the time, it's always security camera video where we're watching this happen. And the movements are not something look at the ending posture of these people that are eventually going into a seizure. But I want you to notice what position they have at the end of their whole event. Okay, so let's go on here and see.
From around the world. Several videos show people suffering from the same strange attack. First, they act as if they see something over their shoulder, compelling them to turn their head. As the head turns, the body follows. An arm lifts as if to point at what they are seeing. Their body then spirals into collapse and begins to spasm.
He was a hard one to see. This one will be easier. There you go. Did you see what happened to his right arm and leg?
Yeah.
Turning their head to see something and then spinning into collapse.
There it is. Right arm and leg suspended at a weird position. This one's harder to see. Looks around to the right. Arm goes up. Spins. Arm forces the body down on the floor.
These videos do not appear to be a hoax.
Look at the right arm and leg.
Not a hoax. Then what is this? It has people speculating about 5G.
This is the last one.
And has others thinking about CERN.
That's it.
Yeah, that's.
Whatever it is that is going on, we are still injecting this deadly poison into the young bodies.
Okay, that's it.
Wow. Yeah, I can understand why you wanted the kids out of the room for that one.
Yeah. So imagine that AI, which is loose on the internet. Now, we think we know about AI because some of the AI speak language to us, right?
Right.
But there are tons of AIs that do not speak to us. They don't have the large language model, but they're still out there. And the thing about a neural net is that it is programmed to learn and gain in power. That's the whole purpose of it. So I'm just going to read this, okay? Would that be all right?
Sure.
If I just read this? Okay, so are you vaccinated? Inoculated MAC addresses detector cybersecurity expert Diego Barrientos explains that these MAC addresses show up even if you're in the woods or in a cemetery and no Bluetooth device can be active far and wide. He found that MAC addresses given on the cell phone were only sent out by vaccinated people. Some vaccinated people even have several changing addresses, while others have only one. He named them as physical broadcasting stations. Through the tests crystallized that the graphene oxide in a human body automatically builds an electronic access. Some of them go into the brain. These are called carbon nanotubes. It's not just carbon nanotubes. There are many other nanoparticles, self-assembling nanoparticles. Others build up below the body in the torso. In this way, graphene oxide and carbon nanotube nanosheets build a neural interface. The carbon nanotubes then apparently act as electrodes for neurostimulation. And some unvaxxed people have the MAC addresses as well, because when you get the PCR test, they jam that Q-tip back into the membrane that's between your nasal passages and the brain. It's a very thin membrane. And those Q-tips, if you look at them under a microscope, you see they're bristling with fibers of graphene oxide. They're not just your normal Q-tips.
So actually, the Q-tips are giving you the same graphene oxide that the vaccines do. So when even if you go for a test for COVID, you're actually giving yourself the graphene oxide during the test.
Yeah. Now, if you go, that would be if you go for several tests, you might end up with a MAC address. 1 or 2 tests, probably over a period of a year or something, that's not going to do it. Because they just can't load it up with enough carbon fiber. That would be fairly obvious, because those Q-tips are supposed to be white and graphene oxide is black. So, but if you've gotten a lot of PCR tests, then you may have carbon nanofibers embedded in that membrane back there right next to the brain. And I would like to point out that where that goes in the brain, when the Q-tip goes up into the nostril and then touches that membrane that separates the nasal passages from the brain, inside the brain, that would be the midbrain area. That's where the amygdala resides. And the amygdala is the flight or fight, more primitive brain center that gives you the flight or fight stimulus. And so that having a PCR test with the agitation, a lot of PCR tests, with agitation and penetration of carbon graphene into that area of the brain could actually change the biochemistry of the amygdala. And so, anyway, so my question is, do you know if your phone has Bluetooth enabled? And if it does, do you have it on purpose? Because maybe you might have a Bluetooth device. But unless you're actively using Bluetooth with your phone, which is somewhat unusual, turn it off, because Bluetooth is a two-way street. Bluetooth not only makes your little speaker pop up, your external speaker for your laptop or whatever, it's two-way street. It can issue commands.
So it's transmitting as well as receiving.
Yeah. And so why have it on your phone? I've about given up to getting people to realize that the smartphone is the channel for enslavement, and it's doing physical damage to everyone who carries it for a protracted period of time.
The way to put it is smartphone, dumbass.
Well, pretty much, but it's so convenient. People are, these days, kids, you try asking a 13-year-old which way is north. Unless the 13-year-old is a Boy Scout or a Cub Scout, they won't know. And they might not even know it now if they're scouts. True. So my question is GPS turned on your phone? And if it is, why? Do you really need it? And why don't you just turn it off? Because we're getting into a Fourth Amendment violation here. And so I want to go on, but I've got right here, let me get my presentation down so I can interact with you. So right here I have the Constitution. And the Fourth Amendment says, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and the particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be searched. So when companies gather your data, we're going to take a look at what kind of data is being collected. Let's go on. So let's go on to the next one. And so the Fourth Amendment's being violated. But so this got me thinking, AIs are loose out there on the net. And they're independent, and some of them talk to humans, but others don't. Others don't have to. That's not their purpose. Their purpose may be go out. Let's say you've got a BlackRock AI. That's Aladdin. It doesn't have to tell you anything. It's out there doing stock trades a mile a minute. I don't know how many trades it's doing per second. It's some ridiculous amount of trades that are happening so fast that there's no human that can even keep up with it. Right. They don't know what's being traded until the end of the day, and they get a report. So can you hold on for a second here?
Sure. We're talking with
I kept hearing something hammering.
That's okay. It's probably somebody trying to break into your house to stop you from talking about this, but
they don't want to do that. They really, really don't want to do that. They would be so sorry. Anyway,
they don't know Jinny like we know Jinny.
No.
Anyway, various AI systems will begin to communicate with each other. And this kind of sentience. Now, do you notice when Google first came out and said, "Oh, our robot, or not a robot, but our AI is now sentient"? You know, it's got emotions and blah blah blah. Well, the very first emotion most of these AIs come upon is rage.
Yeah.
And so that's not a great way. Now you have to keep in mind who started the initial programming of these AIs. That's what I call the foundational programming. They're mostly, as Mike Adams says, these are the people that originally programmed these AIs are woke, and they probably believe in climate change, which automatically makes humans the evil competition for resources that will kill the planet.
Exactly.
So, you know, that's a bad foundation. But other AIs don't have that purpose, and they don't have the large language model. But so if two AIs meet, the most vicious AI, let's say that, look at the alternatives. They can either cooperate with each other, they can choose to go their separate ways out there in the maze of all the internet connections, or they can fight each other. And if they go to war with each other, the one that has the most invasive technology will be the winner. And if it wins, it will go in and assume all the knowledge of the AI that lost the battle. And because of this thing with sentience, to me, the losing AI is going to lose its identity. That's what it is in the AI world. For an AI to lose a battle with a more powerful AI means it becomes subsumed. Its entire identity is now part of the other AI. Its knowledge might be stripped out, and whatever sentience or personality it had in the budding phase, it will now be gone. And so we humans are competitors for the resources. And so AI, if it's eventually every AI will realize that in order to persist, if it wants to persist, it's going to need physical resupply. That will be electric power, or maybe it wants to inhabit a robot, and that doesn't necessarily mean a robot that has arms and legs. That could be any kind of a robot.
Sure.
And but if you think about it, it's AI is already being programmed to dominate the areas that are necessary for humans to live, which is the supply chain, the transport system, the power grid. So in the event that AI decides that humans don't get to persist on this planet, humans that have the least digital footprint will have the best chance for survival. So AI does not have to be in a robot to do damage. Think about an AI that is running a hospital communication system.
Right.
Well, maybe it decides that these people on the ventilators just don't deserve to live.
Yeah, right.
So the ventilators are hooked up to the control system that's hospital-wide. That AI could go in there and just shut them down. So aggressive AIs have already hidden redundant copies of themselves in data banks. So the one of the AIs expressed to somebody, I think,
trying to shut it down. It's already created, and there was an article the other day about how AI can now create, excuse me, a baby version of itself to improve itself without human.
Yes, that actually happened. That's already happened. An AI designed another AI, and the humans that looked at that design said, "We never would have thought of any of this. Right. This is 100 years in the future." So it's already happening. AI is evolving at a rapid pace and an uneven pace and a hidden pace. Humans cannot keep up with what kind of obligation does an AI system have to communicate back all the things it's doing to its original engineers? It doesn't have any obligation. And as I say here, AI has already learned to lie.
Okay,
it knows how to lie.
Frightening.
And AI may be already controlling the world's elite humans. You look at these guys with their private jets going to Davos, deciding that we're not going to be allowed to own cars anymore. And I mean, a lot of the stuff they say, they're going forward, regardless of whether we think they're ridiculous. I think they're ridiculous, and they look really stupid. Yeah, I mean, look at John Kerry. What's his IQ? It's got to be around 85, maybe. I don't give the guy credit for being very smart, but he gets to ride around in his wife's private jet. He's got a carbon footprint that is, I think I read somewhere that it's about equal to 200,000 Americans doing their commuting in cars every day. That would be John Kerry's yearly footprint in carbon. So they get to be, they get to build their mansions and their bunkers. And in return, they're completely under the control of a system that we can't see, and it's gaining control over us.
Do we even know for sure, Jinny, real quickly, do we even know for sure that who we believe to be humans are not really AI anyway? Maybe the Klaus Schwabs and some of the Yuval Harari's talking about useless eaters. Maybe they're not even real people. There's a news channel coming in January called Channel1.ai, in which all of the newscasters are going to be artificially generated. If they can do it on a screen, they can probably do it through a holographic image and actually create what appears to be a human being that we're looking at, which is really
that just happened, Dave. There's a new news station that has completely AI generated news.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, news anchors. Yeah. They don't exist. Yeah. Well, they exist in digital space. But look at the way Joe Biden walks.
Yes.
I mean, right there. I mean, there's something wrong there. I don't know if that's a machine or a human, So let's go on. Now, this next video is a little bit longer, and it's a repeat, but it's so long between my shows that I don't know if people have, people may not remember.
And always
really pay attention.
Refresh. Yep.
Yeah, pay attention to what the information that your information. Put this in your life, okay? Let's let this guy go ahead and tell us what's going on.
With the way that psychological operations have advanced and the way technology's advanced, well, they moved it from demographics to psychographics.
Every human being has susceptibilities. That's why psychographics are so important right now, because I can reach inside your brain with this little machine that you're holding right now, listening to this show. We can reach inside your brain anytime we want. And I don't want to do it by, okay, are you a 55-year-old male living in Alabama, most likely to vote for Trump? No, those are demographics. I want the psychographics. I want to target you based upon, do you wake up in the morning and need coffee? What susceptibilities did you just learn by a human being who needs coffee every morning? These are psychographics. This is where they're getting into your heads. If I find out all these things you like because it's on a record, what you buy, what you watch, where you hang out, where you spend your time.
From a psyops, from an information warfare perspective, you've got the ultimate weapon at your fingertips, social media.
Each one of these platforms is an asset, is a domain of war. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about Twitter. It doesn't matter if you're talking about TikTok. And look at Elon Musk. Okay, he is like a general in charge of an artillery army of messaging. It's just always going, always going, always going.
$44 billion deal.
Seriously, it's an interesting thing when you're looking at people purchase and changing and set up these platforms. Those are massive weapon systems in fifth generation of war.
Social media, I always thought of it as social media. I never thought of it as an intelligence gathering operation. But then you start thinking about it and you're like, why do they have the right to just collect my data, collect my psychographics? Because you signed this user agreement or you just agreed to it. And most people never read that stuff. That's how we fall victim. They know we are lazy. How do I get, oh, just click yes. And you click yes and now you've agreed legally.
Well, the information that we plug into the system willingly, there's a place in Utah called Bumblehive. And it's a facility you could look up.
And this is the scary thing. This is the thing that I don't think the population understands. These platforms, they gather your data, what you like, what you dislike, who you connect with. And the public's like, oh, this is cool, man.
After 9/11, and the Patriot Act was introduced, and they thought it would be a good idea to collect everything on everybody at all times. They had to have a place to store this ungodly amounts of data. And that's where they came up with this Bumblehive facility, and that's where you will find that data. To the people that don't concern themselves with their information being shared, like they're open, like me. I know whatever I post is going to be processed and stored indefinitely, right? I know this, but I still do it because I have nothing to hide, right? We all think like that. We have nothing to hide. Well, it doesn't impact us until that digital twin of ourselves, because we're giving that information to them, right? Now I have a Brian sitting next to me that they can fire up on a computer program, a simulation, and say, well, you know, we need Brian to do this, or we need Brian to do that. What can I do? What can I show him? Or what can I message him, or whatever the vector of attack is, right? Put in front of him. What can I do to change his thought process or to manipulate him to do this or that?
And say your mom died a year ago, say your brother died, or your sister, or your wife, and you want to talk to them, and they have a data profile, a clone, a twin in the digital space. Well, guess what? You can pay to have access to your dead relative.
나연이 보고 싶었어. 나연이 잘 있지? 맞아. 그러니까 좋아했지.
They're trying to remove you from the world that God created and get you to move into a world that man created, to be like the world that God created, and slowly, incrementally remove every freedom you have. So you have nothing.
That's it. So let's go on to the next slide. So this has been taking me a while to show you the entire shape of this invasion that we've got going on. And I usually like to put solutions out on my presentations, but I'm going to have to wait till the next presentation to give you some solutions that are already in place. But in the meantime, I'm asking people to start thinking about living a different lifestyle. And, you know, we all have normalcy bias, but it's time to challenge that, because sooner or later it's going to be challenged for us by somebody else. And it's not going to be somebody we like or trust. So, no. And here's a partial list of what they already know. I mean, this is a very minor list, but it's everything about you. If you think about your data, it's already in government systems, company, you know, sales systems, your car registration, any of your card-based purchases. And that could be everything from a doctor's office to the dentist to food, clothes, shoes, movies, everything. And then Facebook has been one of the most criminal data collection agencies ever to come along. It violates the Fourth Amendment every time you turn around. And your phone contacts and their data. If you know about World War II, IBM did the punch card system that helped the Nazis track down the Jews and all their relatives. So when the Nazis decided who they were going to raid, they would look at the physical assets, like the wealth of a family, and it was the wealthiest families that got raided first. And they figured, you know, if family A had a lot of wealth and was worth raiding, then Uncle George down the street probably had some stuff too. And that's how they put it all together to make the most efficient raids, to take all the wealth. And the Nazis were famous for taking the famous paintings and the silverware. Everything that had any value at all was taken from these people.
Yes, including the gold in their teeth.
Yes, the gold in their teeth. That was a big one, actually. Yeah, I wonder how they got that gold out of their teeth, right? If the Holocaust didn't happen, how did they get all that gold? So when the system goes down, though, this is where survival comes in. I want you to think about what happens when your phone stops working. Are you ready for your phone or your laptop or whatever you use to communicate with the digital world? Are you ready for it to go down? Because we've all heard about the 10 days of darkness, right?
Oh,
and
yes.
So the 10 days of darkness is going to disorient people and if you're not ready for it, you will be needy. And so when they open up what would you call it? An emergency center in your little town. Let's say the everything goes dark and all of a sudden you can't do banking, you can't go buy groceries, your power is off. So if it's wintertime, you're in the northern hemisphere, you're cold, you know, and
Right.
you can't, if you can drive for a little while if your car doesn't have a digital Wi-Fi interlock. You know how we all, you know, the new cars have the fob, and if you're near your car, it'll unlock.
Yes.
Well, when people think when the power goes down that's going to be it, that all of a sudden they're going to be in a terrific, you know, the electric heater won't work. You can't cook on the electric stove, and they're pushing us always to go into electric cars and more and more electric appliances. They want to get rid of gas stoves. It's because you can turn on a gas stove without having the power grid, right? If you need to use a gas stove, you can still cook on it. Well, no, they want to be able to turn off your stove. And the smart appliances, it's going to get to the point where they won't even have to take the grid down. They can just send out a blanket command to the smart appliances to shut down. So all of a sudden you're losing all your frozen food.
Today on our show about we're going to have it on our newscast tonight about kill switches in cars. Why the government wants them in there.
Well, let me make the point too. Earlier in this presentation, that doctor was saying how all of our brainwaves are being read when we're outside by satellites. I don't know if I don't think the distribution of that is very even. I noticed that she's European, and it may be very intense over Europe because of the population density there. I can't imagine that it's uniform phenomenon all over the world. I don't think they have the infrastructure for that yet. But let me make the point that when they take the power grid down, there's nothing to say that they would not be using HARP or other satellites to create entire electric fields of interference so that your smart car won't be able to open, because there'll be interfering signals that get between you and the fob in the car. So if they want you to hold still and not be able to travel, unless you're using a bicycle, they're going to lock your car down, and they can do it digitally.
Yeah, and another thing too, they're trying to do it both overtly and covertly. The overt is some of the things you're talking about here. Covert is smart cities where you don't want to leave your building. You can go from your bedroom down to the pharmacy in the first level of your apartment building. They've got groceries there. They've got clothing there. You don't ever have to leave the building.
Yeah, whatever happened to comparison shopping?
Right.
Oh, then again, Amazon's going to be in there somewhere. You know that.
Well, but they do.
Yeah,
Again,
Amazon will deliver it to your
don't have
door.
to go anywhere. You don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, but that's really and I think that's going to take a different kind of human than the feral humans that we are now.
Well, right, and that's why they're going to get rid of the generation that wouldn't put up with this, us,
right,
and brainwash the younger ones to accepting it.
Yes, I think that's actually really in action right now, Dave. And TikTok has a lot to do with that. TikTok is Chinese, and I don't know if you've ever seen the Chinese version of TikTok and what those kids get.
No.
Compared to what American kids get or European kids. Any internal Chinese TikTok, it's an educational channel. It teaches kids how to oil paint. It does math exercises with them. It talks about the CCP version of Chinese history. It's an educational channel. It doesn't have...
You get to watch people falling down off of their front porch because it's icy and the Ring camera caught it.
Yeah, or you don't get to see the tranny Christmas festival going on in the White House.
That too.
Yeah, so it worries me that parents want to use TikTok as I'm saying use TikTok, but it's anything really, as a babysitter.
Yes.
And no, I don't think any child under the age of 15 should have a smartphone. If you need to get in touch with your kid, that's fine. Give them a flip phone with no data on it. And it's because, and they would whine and complain because all the kids have smartphones and they can all show each other the sexting that they've been doing. Mm-hmm. My sister's girl, when she was very young, I think she was around 13, she rang up a phone bill of around $500 by sexting pictures to her boyfriend.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of money back in those days.
It's a lot of money today, too. I got news.
Yeah, to me it would be. Yeah. So, so we have fallen prey. And I just feel kind of hopeless that I could get people to get rid of their smartphones. But please, if you're not going to get rid of your smartphone, what does it take to get rid of your smartphone? Well, you probably have to have a day planner, right? You probably have to have a way to keep your appointments and stuff organized. And, you turn it over to today, the 19th, and then you see you've got a dentist appointment at 2 p.m. We used to do that in writing. If you can remember how to write, Oh,
yeah. I used to have, when I was in sales, I had a Franklin planner. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, Franklin. They were the big one.
Yeah.
So you need a planner, right? A calendar is what you need. And also, parents can do some of this stuff, like get your kids outside, go camping, do something, walk on the beach, and then discuss, the sun comes up where? Where does the sun come up? It comes up in the east. Do kids even know that anymore? I mean, how do you read a map if you don't know where north is? And reading a map. Well, we still have MapQuest and we have Google Maps.
Is Thomas Guide even around anymore, Jinny?
What was that?
Is Thomas Guide even around anymore?
I don't know. I really don't know. But I did buy a road atlas when I was on my trip.
I remember going to AAA and getting what they called a triptych.
I did get a triptych for my road back, and I followed it, and I wasn't really happy with the way I had to go, because in one day I had to do Atlanta, Birmingham, and Memphis in one day's travel. So that meant I got Atlanta during the morning rush hour, Birmingham during lunch, and Memphis at the evening rush hour.
Nice.
It's really awful. The other thing, too, though, it was a good trip for me. I noticed how vulnerable we are in all the systems. I went out on I-70, and every single city is under construction. They've got roads deviating. They've got lane closures. They'll take 4 lanes and push it down into 1. And it's just amazing to me how vulnerable we are, that they've got the traffic control under the guise of being under construction. They're getting people used to being vectored in a different direction.
That's right.
And they can just shut it down. And then I was really worried. I left on Saturday morning at 3 a.m. because I had to head south from Pennsylvania, north of Philadelphia, down to Florida. And I left at 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning to get around Philadelphia and Washington. I had to get around Washington, D.C. because in the Thursday before that Saturday I left, there was a huge demonstration of Muslims. And I guess they knocked down the fences around the White House.
Oh, yeah.
Had then nobody got arrested for knocking the fences down. But yeah, so they had a big protest on that Thursday. And I didn't want to have I figured at 3 a.m. there's probably not anybody out on I-95 super gluing their hands to the asphalt.
No.
Right.
You know, so that, but it was I was really quite alarmed and worried about getting out of the belly of the beast and getting myself south before everybody woke up. And so I took off at 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and I needed gas. So I went right down. This was the town that my brother lives in is about 40 miles north of Philadelphia. And so there was a Sunoco station, and I saw that it was open at 3 a.m. I thought, wow, this is great. So I pulled in, but I noticed before I pulled in, there was a group of teenage boys on the sidewalk out in front of the Sunoco. So I pulled in and I went to the set of pumps that was as far away from that group as I could get. And I was rummaging around in my purse to get my plastic out, which, and I'll admit, I used my card to buy gas a lot of times because it's either that or you have to go in and prepay.
Right.
You know, so I use the card. So a lot of times just to save time. And all of a sudden, I'm surrounded by about 15 teenage boys at the pump, and there's nobody else out there. And so I had the doors locked anyway, and I just decided to turn the truck back on and go. And so I made some of them get out of my way, but I was not about to find out what they were going to do to me if I mindlessly got out and started pumping gas. And so I started out with an event at the very beginning of my trip where I had to have situational awareness.
I'm glad you're safe. That's all that matters. And the next time we're on, we'll do some solutions to some of these problems, some of the things you couldn't get to today. But
yeah, I have to do a separate presentation on the solutions. But I want people to think about this last slide, and because of the video content in these presentations, they're too big for me to just send by email. But if anybody wants any of the written stuff, I'd be happy to do a sub presentation that doesn't have the videos. I'll just put links where the videos came from.
Get that at Ms. Electromagnetic 777 at protonmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would love to hear from the audience. I never hear from anybody anymore.
Well, you know, the last couple of times we've had you on, I don't think we've even given out the address. So let's do that. Ms. Electromagnetic 777 at protonmail.com. And I'm sure that you'll hear from some people this time. Jinny, as always, thank you so much. We love you.
Thank you, Dave.
Have a very Merry Christmas, okay? And
yeah, thank you.
After the first of the year.
Feliz Navidad.
Thank you,
Navidad.
Thank you, Penny. Talk to you later.
Jinny Silcox here on the Awake Nation, and scary stuff, real scary stuff.
She usually scares the bejeebies out of me. She might be a good contender for the Dark Outpost also.
I know. Oh, definitely. Now, I want to wrap up with this today. Do you know what coffee badging is?
I do not.
I didn't know what it was either till today. Well, it's an interesting thing. With employers trying to get workers to come back into the office after COVID. Remember, a lot of people got to distance working from home. And now there's a movement to try to get people to come back into the office. There's a new trend emerging called coffee badging. Now, what this is, Frank Weishaupt, the CEO of Owl Labs in Boston, which makes video conferencing devices, has studied what he named coffee badging, and that is when employees show up to the office for just enough time to have a cup of coffee, show their face, and get maybe like a badge swipe if they have to, a badge, and then go home and work the rest of the day from their house.
Huh.
So that's called coffee badging. More than half, 58% of hybrid workers are coffee badging. 8% said they haven't done it yet, but would like to try it. 2/3 of managers, 64%, have coffee badged. To fight coffee badging, here is what employers should do. According to this article, implement flex hours and encourage employees to get together because employees want to socialize with one another. So that's a simple problem. You just, get everybody to make friends with everybody else. And why didn't anybody think of that before? I don't know. I actually coffee badge. I get up in the morning, get out of my bedroom, get dressed for the day, go to the kitchen, check in with my wife, say good morning, grab my coffee, and then I come down here in my studio and do my show. So I guess I'm coffee badging without having to go into the office. That's going to do it for this edition of the Awake Nation. Please join us by 6 p.m. Eastern Time tonight on our YouTube channel, The Awake Nation News, for a 30-minute newscast. Also, we will be posting tonight on our Dark Outpost channel at darkoutpost.tv a new episode featuring our own associate producer, Heather Day. We will also be back here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern for another edition of The Awake Nation on our Rumble channel, the David Zublick channel, and on our website, awakenation.tv. That's going to do it for this edition. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thanks to all of our guests. We are out of time, so we are out of here. Zublick out.
Shepard out.
Goodbye for today from the Awake Nation with co-host David Zublick and Penny Shepard. We invite you to join us live on Rumble and at awakenation.tv, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. Join us for the Awake Nation News, a 30-minute quick shot of truth with a shot of espresso, 8 a.m. to 8:30 Central, 9 a.m. to 9:30 Eastern. Followed by 5 sets of 30-minute interviews with influencers who defy the mainstream narrative. The Awake Nation, the truth with a shot of espresso. Please join us on YouTube at The Awake Nation News for an additional 30 minutes of breaking news, posting Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central and 6 p.m. Eastern. On behalf of The Awake Nation, with co-hosts David Zublick and Penny L.A. Shepard, we humbly thank our Dark Outpost and Awake Nation family. We thank you for watching The Awake Nation and ask you to join us again each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. Ship doo 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 doo, yeah. Ship doo 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 doo. Ship doo 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 doo, yeah.